Hey everyone, today is Thursday, the 11th of July, 2019. This is The Gap, episode 475. I'm Lawrie. Joab Gore's here. How's your week going, Joab?
It's fine, I guess. It's
It's
fine.
alright.
It's all right.
You sound a bit salty over there.
Just a little hungover, I guess. I
Right.
had a big night last night. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep. So yeah.
I thought you were maybe just a bit upset after the basketball still.
How would I be upset about the basketball? What would I be upset about with the basketball?
I don't know. I think we've got a great team, to be honest.
I think we've got a fucking awesome team. It's sick. We've done really well. We wouldn't have it anywhere near. I think we would be way worse if we had Leonard on our team. Like, it'd be cooked. That said, if we were to ditch everyone and just get Russell Westbrook instead, I'd be about it. That'd be fucking hilarious. It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. And just play two people. Just have, or just the three of them
Yeah.
on the court. That's it. Don't need anyone else.
You don't, right? AD's got the blocks. LeBron's got the other blocks. Russell Westbrook gets every fucking rebound.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Nobody else in the team scores.
It's called the triangle offense. I believe that's what they were thinking of when they established that term. So yeah, yeah. It should be an interesting season next season.
Who's going to win? Nobody knows.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like for the first time in a while, it hasn't sort of just felt kind of pointless to watch the basketball. Like the Nets will be pretty good. Like. Shockingly, the Knicks will be hilariously awful, as always. But yeah, the West is going to be fucking bananas. It's going to be crazy. Where's Draymond Green going? Is he staying at the Warriors?
Yeah,
or
he's staying.
is he? Okay.
Isn't he staying with Warriors? You're thinking of Iguodala.
Yeah, maybe. He would have been awesome on the Lakers. That would have been fucking sick. Would have known all the Warriors' tricks. Would have been good.
Yeah.
For some reason I thought I read Draymond was looking into moving on or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just,
No, he's staying now that KD's out.
Yeah,
he's
right.
fine. He's happy.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting week though. I don't think anybody saw the Clippers Kawhi. Well, possibly Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. But nobody saw the Paul George thing at all.
No, yeah. True. I mean, the Thunder are kind of fucked, eh? Like, they're just... What the fuck are they supposed to do? Right? Like, they're just cooked now.
Yeah.
Westbrook can't, like...
Well, he wants out. He's trying to get traded.
Yeah, exactly. And so we fucking should, right? Like... Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Anyway, should be a good season. No more super teams.
Or
by super teams, you mean like
five all stars.
Five all stars.
It's weird that we've melded ourselves to rethink what a super team is, because there are a fucking bunch of teams with 3 superstars. So, and that used to be enough, right? Like the big 3 situation used to be enough for a super team call, but no, apparently it's not there anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, good stuff.
Cool. Want to talk about video games?
Yeah, let's talk about video games.
Alright, what do we want to kick off with? I've been playing some older games. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice.
Yep, I remember this. I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, it's got a lot of really good reviews when it first came out.
Yep.
I think at the moment I'm about 2 hours in, and it's pretty average.
Yeah.
There's a lot of walking.
Yep.
Like a lot of walking at the start of the game. There is some like very average puzzle elements, but maybe below average puzzles, I'd call them.
Yep.
At the moment, the ones that I've seen. And then a pretty basic combat system. Although, in saying that, the actual animations in the combat are quite good.
Yep.
Yeah, man, you're playing this character who is on this journey through a mythical land. I guess it's taking a lot of like Greek mythology, references to people like Odin and that sort of stuff. Yeah, and like my biggest issues with it is the game just doesn't tell you how to do anything. There's no tutorial per se. Like there's no text on the screen or any indication that you should be sort of doing certain things within the world, unless you actually go out into a menu and be like, oh, what are the buttons in the game? All right, this is what the buttons are. At the start of the game, you're walking for quite a while, and I'm like, is this fucking for real? Like, what's going on? And there's run button, but it doesn't tell you that like this is the run button. It's just you just walk, and that's it. You get to this like stone, and you have to look at it, and that gives you like it's basically like a voice recording, in a BioShock game or like any of those games where you pick up a fucking tape and it plays back a message for you. That's basically what they are. They spread them out throughout the world and whatnot, but it doesn't tell you how to interact with it. So you've just got to press buttons and figure it out yourself. And like you get to the very first puzzle, and it is a door that is closed, and it has a symbol on it, and it's glowing red, and then you've got to figure out what you're supposed to do with this door, and it doesn't tell you what you're supposed to do. You just need to look around, and so you start hitting that focus or the button to look around again, and there's this silhouette of this icon or this sort of symbol that you're trying to look for. You're trying to like line up with something. It doesn't really explain it well. And so I'm stepping backwards. I'm like trying to line it up with the symbol on the door. That's not working. I like start walking backwards, and I'm looking around the room for like anything. That's not working. I basically go back around the corner of this entire like hallway. It's inside this like cave thing, and I can't find anything to interact with. And so I'm just holding the look button at this stage, because every time I do it, the symbol comes up and there's fucking glowy bits all around the screen. And eventually, I'm just waving my controller like my look around, and it just locks onto something on a wall, and it's like a shadow that's in the form of the symbol, like the shape of it, and then it zooms in and then it automatically unlocks the door. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
Cool.
So then I okay, that's what you do with the puzzle. And it does that like a couple of more times. Like that is basically like, here's an introduction to the thing. So you're now looking for visual clues within the world to try and progress you further through these locked gates, and it does that like 6 or 7 different times.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's like, I've been playing for about 2 hours, and that's pretty much like the game breaks down to you do a couple puzzles and then you fight a couple of creatures. And the combat's really basic. There's like a fast attack, heavy attack, a dodge, and a block, and a kick. When something swings at you, there is a like a light that sort of triggers on their weapon that shows you should block now. And if you block now, you get a really good counter, and that'll allow you to hit back at them super quickly. Otherwise, you just hold the block button down and they can't do anything. There's enemies later on that will do heavier attacks and get past that sort of stuff, but otherwise it's not that hard. It's pretty basic combat from what I've seen so far. Sometimes they start throwing in more enemies at you, and that can get a bit sort of like, I don't know if overwhelming's the word, but the reason why I'm feeling that way is because the camera is so close up behind this character that you can't see around you really. So you don't know. The first time it happened, I didn't know there was someone behind me. I just got hit all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they eventually start giving you audio cues that like you're about to be attacked, because this character she's hearing voices all the time. So it'll say like, there's someone behind you type thing, and that's when you sort of hit your block button. But otherwise, you just don't have any idea that there's anyone around you. It's really slow to sort of look around, because she's very like lumbering and takes a while to turn. So yeah, the combat's pretty basic. There was a boss fight, and it was this boss fight where it was sort of in stages. Eventually, you get to a stage where the character turns into like a flame, and you try and hit it, and because they're on fire, she sort of just like the sword just deflects off of this guy, and you don't do any damage. But then I don't know what I'm supposed to do because there's no, like, the game hasn't told me this is how you fight things. Like, there's no, like, you use your dodge to do this, or you use your block to do this, or you, with these types of enemies you're supposed to kick. It just doesn't tell you anything. So I'm hitting this guy, and it seems like I'm not doing damage, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. And eventually I die, and then I replay the same fight again, and I get back to that one spot pretty quickly, and I'm like, I literally don't, like, am I supposed to just walk around and wait for the fire to extinguish? So I'm just walking around for like a minute. That's not doing anything. And apparently I'm supposed to press right trigger to trigger a special move, and then that dispels the fire from the creature. Like, but it doesn't tell, like, I don't know I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's what I remember from it, right? Like, is that basically the challenge is all in the obscurity of the fucking, like, game mechanics? Like, it basically doesn't tell you how to do anything. Like, and I don't need a game to fucking explicitly say, find this shadow or something like this. But clever game design is game design that will, like, sort of lead you to water. And you know, and then it's up to you to drink it, right? I don't need a fucking path necessarily, but it'd be nice if there were like a clearing through the bushes. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go through that that clearing and make my own way to the fucking water, right? Like, Hellblade didn't do anything like that, in my opinion. It was just, I constantly found myself, I stopped playing because I felt like, the next puzzle is like, the puzzles aren't actually that difficult. The real challenge is working out what the fuck the game is trying to tell you, and I didn't find that. Yeah, I didn't find it satisfying. I just found it really tedious, and that combined with the fucking pace of everything in that game made it infuriating for me.
Yeah. I'll touch on the pace in a second, but just to add to the combat stuff. So then after I figure out, there's a button here that I can use, it turns out that's like a special meter where you eventually build up attacks and you press it, and it's sort of like a slow down time thing where we can do attacks on enemies really quickly. So then I'm like, okay, cool. I know how to do that now. But yeah, it like just doesn't explain any of these mechanics to you. There wasn't a fight up until that point that needed me to do that move, or that gave me any indication that I needed to do this thing. So yeah, that was kind of just really dumb.
Yeah.
In terms of the pacing, one issue I've got with it is the audio fucking tombstones or whatever you want to call them. Like, you interact with them and this person starts talking to you, or you're getting like information about the world and what's going on. But I feel like we've come so far in game design where other games have done that so much better, and it's a problem that we see creep up all the time where you're listening to something, and before it used to be the problem where you're listening to something and then other audio would cut into it, like another recording or something.
Yep.
Whereas this one does the thing where you can't walk away from where you're standing.
Right.
Because if you walk too far away,
you can't hear
then it like slowly the volume starts to go down to eventually where you can't hear it anymore. Yep. So you've got to stay in this area and just stand there.
Yeah.
And listen to someone speak for however long. And then you're like, okay, now I'm going. Like, it feels like they're padding the fucking game length out so that they can, make it an extra hour long or whatever it is. So yeah, that was super infuriating because I was just kind of triggering these audio logs and then being like, okay, cool, I'm going to walk away and do the next thing I need to do, and then it would just stop. And I'm like, all right, so you actually want me to just stand here for a minute and listen?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite annoying. Yeah, and it just seems really bland at the moment. It's like I'm up to the second area, like halfway through the second area, where it throws into like more puzzle elements. Like you've got to try and figure out how to progress through these doors again, but it's a different type of puzzle. It's just not like engaging at all. It's just really basic stuff. I mean, some of the ways they do the puzzles are interesting, like the way they present them. This one in particular is this sort of like gateway where it changes the world around you. So you look through it, and the environment will be like a closed door, for instance, in the world. But when you look through this sort of gate or this portal, the door sort of opens, and then you have to step through it, and that changes the world around you. Whereas if you just keep circling this thing, the door's always closed. But stuff like that is interesting, but it's like, it's not challenging. It's literally in order to do these puzzles, I'm literally just, that one in particular is just me walking down a path the entire time. There's no like thinking about it or anything. It's just like, this is where I need to go, this is what I need to do, and it's really easy. The other puzzles where it's got you lining up things in the world to sort of form these shapes can be really infuriating, because all you're really doing is just looking for shapes. Or you don't even have to do that in that particular puzzle. You just walk around until glowy bits show up, and eventually you get to the sweet spot, and your controller will vibrate. So you know you stand in the right spot. You just need to turn around and look for something that resembles that shape. It doesn't take that long. So yeah, it's not... I'm thinking it's pretty bland at the moment. Super average game. As I said, I played about 2 hours. It hasn't done anything that sort of stands out to me as something that's deserving of... I think it's like an 81 on Metacritic when I checked. I know a lot of people were raving about the story and that sort of stuff, but yeah, I'm just not... It's not getting me at the moment. So we'll see how I go. I might play it for a little bit more, but if it doesn't get any more engaging, then I'm not interested in playing much more of it. So yeah.
Yep.
But in saying that, like it's got that fuck, who makes it? I'm thinking, I've played a lot of their stuff before. Ninja Theory.
Yeah.
Like they do really good combat in their other games.
Yeah.
Like the Journey to the West game had really good combat, and you can see that the animation sets are there, but it's very basic in terms of the combat they're trying to do for the moment, at least. So yeah. Anyway, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. It was part of the Humble Bundle for this month, which is why I am playing it.
Right.
The other game I'm playing, which is part of the Humble Bundle, is Moonlighter. You've talked about this before, right?
I think so, yeah. I think I talked about it ages ago.
Yeah. It came out a couple of years back, and it's basically a roguelite game where you play a shopkeeper who goes into dungeons and collects items, and then leaves the dungeons and come back and sells them.
Yep.
The sort of elements here in terms of when you die, you lose stuff that is in your backpack that's not in like certain slots. There's like 5 or 6 slots in your backpack that you can carry on you, which are permanently with you the entire time, but anything else is in that backpack. If you die, you lose that completely. So it's this like risk reward thing of how far into the dungeon can you get to get really good gear before losing it all. Like, when should you give up and just go back? And then you sort of start leveling up your character and buying new gear, swords, armor. There's a town that you roam around in that allows you to buy different items and upgrade different stores that, you know, again, allows you to do like more upgrades to your character. And I am enjoying parts of it. The bits that I don't like is the storekeeper stuff. Which is sort of like this weird mini game where you go back to your store and you put the items that you've gathered onto a shelf and you set prices for them, and then other adventurers come in and start buying these items from you. and they give you an indication whether or not they're happy with the prices. They could be too expensive. Maybe they're too cheap. They think they've gotten a bargain. Maybe it's stuff that they don't need. And then this sort of information gets cataloged to you in your little diary, and you start getting an idea of where you should be setting the prices for items, how popular they are, like what people are really into, and that sort of stuff. And that component seems to take up quite a lot of time in the game, whereas I'd prefer to be out doing the adventuring stuff as opposed to the micromanaging selling things. Like, that just doesn't appeal to me. And then just being like, all right, what am I going to spend all these coins on? I need to upgrade my sword, and I need these different types of materials to do that, but I've just sold all that stuff because I didn't realize that I needed to hang on to it, so now I've got to go get more of it. And it's just this weird thing of like you're selling things, but you don't really know at the start of the game that maybe you should be hanging on to these specific items, because it doesn't really tell you again what all this stuff is used for. You just kind of get it, and you just start selling things because you like money. I'm sort of in two minds about the game. I like the sort of the dungeon elements, but the selling stuff, the shopkeeper stuff, is an interesting idea. Yeah. It just completely slows down the pace of that game to a point where I'm just like, this part is really boring. I would rather just be in that dungeon killing monsters and not having to wait 5 minutes between, 5 to 10 minutes fucking around, like figuring out how much I should sell this stuff for. It's just not really that appealing to me, that side of it. But do you remember much about that game at all?
Not really. I do remember the shopkeeping portion was what drew me to it in the first place. Like, the idea, it's the unique selling point, and it was what made me stop playing it. So
that's the same for me. Like, when I was reading about it, I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then you play it and you're like, oh, that's not as fun as what it sounds like. You're literally a shopkeeper.
I love this, yeah. That was essentially the experience that I had.
Yeah. I know there have been other games in the past, and I don't know the names of them, where you are playing like literally a shopkeeper.
Racketeer, is it? I think.
Is that what it is?
I think is the most prominent one. Right. I thought this would be like that, but a bit more active, a bit more involved. It's definitely worse on that front.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, I don't necessarily know how you would make it engaging, necessarily. How you would... I would imagine you'd almost want to do it like a clicker game, do it like you go out adventuring to find some items, and the store portion is like a idle game thing, where you come back and you get a bunch of money, and you're able to put what you've gotten into certain elements, and it builds up a bar, and that'll level it up or something like that. Instead of clicking, you're getting like resources from the dungeons to upgrade stuff. I think that would be better, because at least the focus would remain on the adventuring portion, and not on, because it's just such a dull system having you stand in a fucking store. It's just not a good idea. And if it was literally just
dragging items into a thing and then just putting prices on them and coming back and being like, oh, all this stuff's sold.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to you standing around and watching people walk around a store and being like, oh, that's too expensive, and then them not buying anything.
Yeah.
It's not.
Just have things be a price, and have people coming in, and you could even do the clicker idle game thing of your store getting bigger and bigger until it's like this fucking Walmart type situation, like this giant fucking warehouse of fucking swords and shit, or whatever the fuck you're selling, and
just rags.
You've got different departments, and going to the rags department. You got different dungeons you got to go to like to focus on each department, the sword dungeon, the shield dungeon, the armor dungeon, the rag dungeon. Like each one is built up when you complete the dungeon, and yeah, like you get to take yourself down a specific path, you know, as opposed to ugh. Yeah, it was so much more boring than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So you're loving everything you got out of the bundle then?
I mean, yeah, sometimes there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there is just like, this is why this is in here. Yeah. Anyway. All right, should we talk about We Were Here?
Yep.
While we're talking about indie stuff?
Yep. So this is a free game. It's available on Steam. Sort of like it's a puzzle game. It's co-op only. You have to play it with another person. It's like you solve all the puzzles by talking to, like, the other person will have all the solutions for the puzzle. So I played it with Nate. We went through it. I don't know how long. What does Steam reckon it took me? 73 minutes. We knocked it out in 73 minutes. And yeah, died a couple of times, mostly from like just communication failure, which I think is, you know, the key element of the game. But essentially, yeah, I don't know what it was like from his perspective because he had, you know, a different view. But I start in a fucking room and I could see a bunch of stuff on the walls, and me and Nate had to like work out based on what he could see and what I could see. We had to work out what would get me out of the room, basically. And so he had to look through all of his. He's got, like, he was a librarian and I think the archivist or something. I'm not sure. But so he was in a library. He had a bunch of books, and he'd look in the books and find these codes. And I found these runes on the wall, and we had to work out which runes I was to press to open the door. And it took us a while to work that out because, you know, it doesn't fucking tell you anything. It just sort of dumps you in a room, and you can see there's a door that you need to get through. But otherwise, yeah, you don't know shit. So yeah. We worked it out. It was good. Like, it was really interesting. It was interesting trying to work out what information Nate needed to be able to solve the puzzle. And then he would have to, like, return the favor. Like, he'd have to work out what information I needed for me to be able to actually solve the puzzle. My biggest issue with it is that the roles are pretty rigid in that, I was doing all the exploring and Nate was stuck in a library with a bunch of books. And it would have been cool if I got out of the first room and in the next room there was a bunch of books that would allow me to fucking help him get out of the room. But that's not really how it worked, right? Like, he was able to go to new rooms and stuff, but that was literally all of that hinged on me solving shit and him communicating to me how to solve shit. You know, like, he was pretty removed from the process. He wasn't like, he wasn't doing any of the fucking solving himself, right? He was just communicating solutions.
Right. He's on the other end telling you how to defuse the bomb.
Yeah.
And you're the one doing all the work.
Yeah, exactly. And I enjoyed being the bomb diffuser. That was fun for me, right? But it seemed a little dull for Nate at times. Like, he was just sort of, waiting for me to do stuff. There's one bit with a chessboard where he literally just had to wait until I started something so that he could actually do anything at all. And he was extremely confused as to what the fuck he was supposed to be doing at that point.
Yeah.
It was also particularly terrifying because that portion you're slowly dying so if you don't figure it out, you just die.
Poison gas?
No, snow. You die of cold. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it was pretty good. Like, it's the first game in a series. It seems there's a couple more games. They cost money for a free game, for a free experience. It's definitely worth it. Yeah, like super interesting. I would hope that for the sequels, they have learned from their mistake of making someone be a fucking librarian the entire game, and hopefully it switches back and forth.
Yeah.
So that because otherwise, I don't know how much longer you would want to play a game. If it was like fucking a 4-hour experience, and you were the librarian for 4 hours, I think you would get pretty fucking bored pretty fucking quick. Yeah. It's definitely worth playing. I would like to play it again as the librarian just to see what that experience is like. It's tricky. I was going to suggest playing it with you because it is free, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to impact your...
You know everything, right?
Exactly,
So,
yeah. So I'd probably be better off playing it with Nate because he would just, like, we technically know all the solutions together, but at the same time, like, the experience would be different. So I wouldn't be impacting his gameplay experience by knowing everything because he would also technically know everything anyway. But yeah, I feel like if I were to play with you, then the fucking loudest plane in the world would come over. Yeah, if I were to play with you, yeah, all I'd be doing is sitting there, like, trying to work out how I could explain shit to you without literally spoiling all the fucking puzzles.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely worth playing. That said, like, like I said, it's free. It's only a couple of 100 meg in size. It's got a pointless fucking storyline type thing going on in it that I didn't give a fuck about at all. And yeah, so worth trying out, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah. Just need the second person is the only tricky part.
Yeah.
But yeah, check it out. What are the sequels called? We Were Here to... I think so. But like TOO.
Right.
Let me see. Here it is. It's
The
got
third
like,
one is called We Were Still Here.
no, it's called We Were Here Together.
Right.
$14.50 for the sequel. The free one is overwhelmingly positive, and the paid one is only very positive. Because nobody's playing it apparently. Gutted. Yeah, I'm not sure how it's different, but I'd be interested to check it out. Yeah. Anyway, check it out. Do it to it.
Nice.
Cool. What's next?
Dota Underlords.
Dota Underlords. Do you know what I have found in Dota Underlords is that playing other auto chess games has made me explicitly garbage at Dota Underlords. I am fucking bad at it now. It is infuriating. I don't seem to be able to win a game if I win early. I basically can only win games from losing streaks. Otherwise, if I win my first couple of rounds, I guarantee you I'll lose. I'll probably drop out fucking 6th. If I lose until I'm down to like fucking 20 fucking hit points, I will win. I guarantee it. I guarantee you I will win that fucking game. I will sit there and just fucking mince every single fucking prick with 90 plus health for the next fucking hour. But yeah, if I've got like fucking 80 health left by round 15, it's over for me. I'm just not going to win. yeah, it's still fun. I'm still enjoying it. But I definitely feel like it's getting a bit stale. I know there's a update coming out uh,
Probably tomorrow.
tomorrow. Yeah, but it seems like at the moment it's just like you only see knights or hunter warrior. Like it's just all knights all the time or hunter warrior, and I'm pretty tired of it. It is easy for me to beat both of them with my mages, my six mage wombo combo.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's not very, I guess, engaging. Oh look, knights and dragons again.
Yeah.
Oh wow, shocker. I wonder what third dragon? Like, are they going to get a third dragon? That's the only real fucking trick, right? Like, oh, it's Night Dragon, so it's going to be fucking Dragon Knight and Viper every single fucking time. And whatever knights they could fucking get, because every other
Well, they get the
in this
puck.
game is getting the fucking going for knights as well. Yeah, do they get a puck as well, or do they get someone else? I guess only time will tell. You never see, yeah, you can never see anything else. It's ludicrous. Or yeah, I guess warriors and hunters, and you're like, oh, they don't have sniper yet, so I guess they'll be easy to beat. And then they get sniper. Suddenly, like they show up with a fucking 2-star sniper the next time they come through, and you're like, oh, fuck. You're like, it'll always shoot the, you know, one person who's going to keep all your shit together. Crystal Maiden just gets fucking deleted off the fucking board, and you're like, well, there goes all of my mana, so I guess I'm going to lose this round. Yeah. Yeah. They need to do something to change that up. The way they changed it up in auto chess is the gods variant, which is the gods racial, which if you have no other racials apart from gods, I believe you get like a massive cooldown reduction, which is it really changes the way you construct a fucking team, because like a lot more shit becomes super viable if you can make it work. Like the assassins is really really powerful if you can knock the cooldown right down. You still need mana generation, but like if you can get it all the way down there, yeah, you can have them procking and just fucking wiping teams off the fucking board like real quick. Yeah, I reckon warlocks would probably be pretty viable with gods as well, because the main problem, like they did that rejig of warlocks. They changed how they worked last week.
Yep.
So that now, instead of, it was sort of just lifesteal, now it's like a direct link of lifesteal.
Yeah.
The reason, if you can get like Soul Sucking Siphon, the Warlock Global, I think it's called Soul Sucking Siphon, something like that, something Siphon. If you can get that, you can ramp up how much like life you're able to steal, but you'll never fucking win a game with Warlocks as it is, like right now, because there's no fucking way you can steal, like you can steal health faster than people can take it from you, basically. But if your cooldowns were way down, then you'd see Warlock just like the Warlock, like just fucking keeping everyone alive non-stop. It'd be fucking hairy as. Yeah, which would be interesting. I got two soul-sucking siphons, and it still wasn't enough to like get me the win with a Warlock's team. You just literally cannot outpace the rate at which you get minced, which is a bummer. But yeah, what do you think? Are you still having fun?
I'm still playing it. Yeah, every night I'll have a couple of games. Like you said, I mean, it's getting to that point where people are starting to figure out builds, and that's sort of the thing you start seeing, like card games like Hearthstone and whatnot. Like, what's the build everyone should go with? And that's sort of what's happening here, is that people are figuring out what the most powerful builds are, and they're just building. Yeah, they're just going for that.
Yep.
And I don't know if the way to fix that is by adding more heroes into the game, so it's more random.
Yep.
Like there's a lesser a chance of getting that stuff, because at the moment, if you want to go for 6 nights, 3, 6, or how is it 9 nights? That's the most. I can't remember. Like if you want to do a Knights build, then you can go for Knights. Like nothing's going to stop you unless there's someone else that's also doing that, and then it just becomes a thing of who's going to get there first.
Yeah.
Who's going to get knocked out first, so you can steal their Knights off them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just this thing where you see the builds, like the same builds constantly. Like
Yep.
Nobody's really trying anything new. On occasion, like I think I talked about it last week, I got the troll buff.
Yeah.
And I got that twice, and it's just like, well, go on trolls now.
Yeah.
And then you just build all trolls, and you get, 4 trolls, which gives you the buff of everybody around you gets, plus, I think it's 30%, 35% attack speed, or no, not 30%. It's just a number, 35%, 35 plus attack speed. But then you get the drow in there, and she does like a percentage attack speed.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody's just destroying the other team.
That'd be pretty good.
Like the other team has no chance. I've done that another 2 times since I played.
Yeah. Well,
Otherwise,
Troll Knights is a pretty fucking popular,
Yeah.
like, wombo combo as it is, right? Like, it's a pretty common to see a lot of fucking Troll Knights. If they're not going Dragon Knights, they're going Troll Knights for sure. It just seems like everyone's just trying to take Knights non-stop. I noticed that I fuck up my position. Like most of my dumbest fucking losses are from fucking up my positioning, where I just not paying attention. Like it's the games where I'm like literally setting and forgetting, and then walking away and doing other stuff.
Right.
And I come back and I'm like, how the fuck did I lose that? And I look into and like. Yeah, like I watch the next round and like all of my fucking pieces will run in weird fucking directions. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, you like this? And you switch some shit around and yeah, you go back to winning rounds. But yeah, my main problem, because I'm mostly playing it on my phone, my main problem is that I don't know, man. I have a real tough time getting a fucking multiplayer game on mobile. I don't know what's going on. Like it seems like
weird.
Yeah, like it really struggles to find matches for me on but only when I'm on mobile. It's weird. I don't know if my connection's not up to snuff or what.
Yeah, I mean that is. I see a lot of people playing on mobile.
Yeah, me too.
When I'm playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's strange. Yeah, I'm starting to do things with looking at the scoreboard a lot more. I like the little button they put in now, where gives you a really detailed view of what people have got and what items they got, as opposed to like clicking on each person and being like, all right, what build are they doing? What's their synergies? Now I can just click on the scoreboard and be like, all right, they've got 2 drows on their bench, and I'm going drows, like that sort of thing. You've not seen this button, have you?
Absolutely haven't.
I'm shocked. Yeah, it's basically like a drill down of every single character, every single person that's playing, what characters they've got in their game, what they've got on their bench, their current win ratio, their gold amount, what items they've got, what global items they've got. Like it breaks down like everything, so you can quickly see it all and be like, all right, like that very first round, for instance, you can be like okay, 6 people have picked up Bloodseeker. Maybe I shouldn't go Bloodseeker. Maybe I should go something else. Maybe I should go Inventors.
No.
Reroll. I'll just lose this round.
Absolutely shouldn't. just open fort.
Yeah. And so they changed that, the open fort stuff. They've changed the losing streaks.
Yeah.
So there's less incentive to lose now. The highest amount of gold you can get is 2 gold for 5 losses in a row.
Yeah.
And
for 8 wins in a row.
Yeah, and so for 8 wins in a row, you get 4 now, but it resets after 8 wins, which is like a bit more of an incentive, I guess.
Well, it just means that the certain people can't run away with their economy. I mean, you can still open fort and get to 50 gold before round 15.
Sure.
I think round 12 if you don't buy anything at all, but you probably want to buy at least the one gold stuff that comes up. because otherwise, like once you get to 50 gold, you wind up in a situation where like you'll be level 5 and the cheap stuff won't be coming up anymore at all. So you kind of get boned. Yeah. Oh, do you know what I noticed? I got the global. I've been playing games where I don't get, like, I'll get a global at the start. Like my first 3 rounds, I'll get globals.
Yeah.
And sometimes the globals I get offered are absolute garbage. But I'll use them as an excuse to try something very different.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is good, you know. It's like
Yeah, I do that as well sometimes.
but I got the global that gets you one more offered item
Yep.
during the AI round, and
I do that a lot.
it's awesome. I had no idea. I thought it was, I thought it would be shit. Mostly because like it is an extra offer, but you can't take an extra item. So,
Yeah.
But it also like the extra one doesn't get wiped out if you lose the AI round. So you can actually like you still get 2 choices if you lose an AI round, which is pretty rad if you get to if you get to reorder your fucking units for the dog and pony show,
Yeah.
which I do. I would say
Constantly.
99% of all my games. I forget to
Yep.
fucking put the fucking tank in the back line just to stop the fucking dogs from eating all my shit. But yeah,
Right. I mean, it also means that you can, like, you've got a higher chance of getting a high tier weapon
it's true.
or high tier item,
Yeah,
like an extra roll on there,
yeah,
which is good. I generally pick it up if it's, not late game, because sometimes you can see it at round 20
right.
or something like that. I'm like, do I need it now?
Yeah, yeah.
Over these other, like, if it's a blink dagger and that, I'm like, I'll go the fucking extra item. I never use a blink dagger.
Me neither. Yeah. Some people
Uh,
fucking swear by it. I've seen a couple. They like really like to use put a pudge, a big pudge in the with the blink dagger, put him in the back line, and he
mm,
starts like wailing on your shit. And then he'll hook like a fucking knife away, and it's pretty fucking good, man. Like he'll hook your front running knights from the fucking front line, drag him back over to you, and like your knight bonuses all fall to pieces as a result, and you're like, oh, and then you fucking die. Um,
right.
it's not bad. Like it's not a bad idea, but I'd also yeah, I never do the blink dagger myself.
Mm. The
Yep.
other items added in for stuff, which is useless. They need to change that to do something
Is that
else.
the one that pushes people away?
Yeah,
It's good against knights. It just
it's
shoves. It shoves. The
might be
only
the
problem,
most useless item in the game.
the main problem. Oh no, it definitely needs to be better. But it does. It's good against the knights with the knight fucking global because you just all you want to do is get that knight out of there, like as many knights as possible out of there because the buff that the knight global does, the armor reduction is ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be changed to do something like either an allied item so that it pushes away an ally that's on low health to your backline or something like that,
Right.
or or in terms of the enemy, maybe it's if someone's on low health, maybe at the back line it pushes them forward or something like that. Like you want to be an advantage because at the moment it's just random.
Yeah, I
Like
would
you could be
like.
attacking a unit that's in the front line that's nearly dead, and then all of a sudden it's pushed them to their back line and they're saved.
I would like it if it was basically tiny. If it was Tiny's special, so it pushes them away, and when they land, they stun people in a fucking radius around them. Because
Yeah.
then people like whoever it pushed away, if they were doing their little corner strategy, you'd stun a whole bunch of people, and so you need to think about that, right? Like, and you could do it like it could proc early, so you'd have a good opening, and you could still get Tiny in the mix to bust people up and do the stun as well, and then it could proc again. You know, like that'd actually be pretty useful. I don't. Yeah, I don't know how else it would work to be terribly like. It's just not like still wouldn't be worth uh, the pick by the round it comes out, because it's like a tier 3 item, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just not worth it, right? Like,
No,
yeah,
I think it'll get rebalanced, or they'll do something to it, because I think it's pretty useless at the moment.
yeah.
The other items added were the scythe and the global contract. Scythe changes people into a I don't know what you call them, an animal,
A frog?
a chicken, whatever.
Oh no, the pig, right? Turns them into a pig.
Right.
Is that the scythe? Or is
Yeah.
there some other item that turns people into a pig?
Yeah, it'll turn them into animal.
Right. Yeah.
So that when you take damage, whoever's doing the damage will transform into a pig. So it could be handy for
I'd love to put it on my back.
anywhere, man. It's
Yeah.
anywhere, like front, back line. It's a pretty handy item no matter where you put it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time contract is, so that's a bloodbound that you put on like your bloodbound units, which I think there's only 2 of them at the moment, and so this gives you like a third option.
Oh, it gives you a third bloodbound. Yeah, I got this. This was fucking sick. Oh, it was so good. I put it on a tiny, and it was ludicrous because I had ogre, magi, and warlock already.
Warlock's the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, I had them already, and yeah, I was fucking ripping 3 cunts. And as soon as Tiny got it, the 100% bonus, I literally moved Warlock to the front line so that he would die.
Yeah.
And Ogre Magi and Tiny were fucking punting. It was ludicrous. It was fucking awesome. Yeah, I was a huge fan of that one. Yeah, I had the refresher orb on Ogre Magi. It was just fucking bloodlust all over the fucking show. It was sick. Sick! Yeah, that was cool.
The other one that was in the patch notes, which they changed, was the Silver Lining global item. I actually used that last night. It's the first time I've used it, which is every time you win a round, you get a charge.
Yep.
And you hold on to that charge. Whenever you lose a round, you lose a charge, but you get a piece of gold.
Right.
So it's like an extra
Yep.
gold. Yeah. I mean, the items that I was given was, I think, again, a blink dagger. And I was like, don't need that.
Yeah.
And then like 2 other globals that I didn't need that were part of like a synergy that, you know, I wasn't using.
So, we're going to pivot towards.
I may as well just get that.
Yep.
So that was handy, and the rest of the changes they had were pretty basic stuff. Nothing exciting in there, but yeah, like I'm still digging it. I just hope they add some more units into the game. I think that'll sort out the meta in terms of this is what you should build, because there's not like a huge stack amount. Like if they start adding more randomness into the game, in terms of making it harder for you to go for an exact build, like
needing to pivot or at least make compromises, right?
Yeah.
And
they
there's a big
talked
patch
about
coming out tomorrow, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about this last week, but they're going to be changing the way the battling system works, or they're looking into changing it. Maybe we did mention it last week.
No, I think we talked about how we'd like to see it happen, but
right.
because they only started talking about how they're changing
After we talked about it, yeah.
Obviously, after they listened to the podcast.
Fucking Eric Johnson.
Classic Eric. He does like to check in on his boys. That party animal, that pussy slayer, Eric Johnson from Valve. We were talking about it. They've been talking about it as well. They're changing it so that when there's only 2 people left, they're going to do like a different dual interface, like so that it's more cinematic, apparently. So they're working on that. Hopefully that also means they're going to introduce some one-on-ones, because I reckon that'd be fucking interesting. And lastly, they're currently testing a version of the game where it's all head-to-heads.
Yeah.
Which, look, at the end of the day, the only way, like, I gotta assume that they want to turn this into an esports.
Yeah.
The only way it works as an esport is with head-to-heads. It doesn't work as an esport if you can't, like, this. The viewability is just fucking cooked. Spectatability is just fucking terrible if it's not head-to-heads, because it's too hard to track. You're literally just watching health meters, and it's still not a great indication of how someone's going because there's all the intangibles.
Right.
So yeah, watching like clicking between everyone to see who's winning and losing and how much by and all that kind of shit just doesn't work. So yeah, head to heads. It's got to go that way. Yeah. Should be good. Yeah. Big patch tomorrow, or
have they talked about what's in the patch yet?
no, not yet. Well, not that I've
Because yesterday they teased it. Sorry, last week they teased it on the Friday. Like, hey, this is what we're bringing out.
Right.
I'm
not sure.
I can quickly check, but
check the old.
Seems like they've got a Discord channel where they've been updating. Like the devs have been talking about changes that are coming and whatnot.
Got to get in on it. Yeah, they're changing ranks apparently, but that's not this week. That's next week apparently. Yeah, and
no, there's nothing here.
Oh, they've got someone's been doing a bit of the old deep diving. Looked into the game files, and they've found some extra heroes that aren't currently in the game: Lion, Zeus, Sven, and Phantom Lancer. Oh, and Storm Spirit are apparently in the game files.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be Zeus. Well, in Auto Chess mod, Zeus is one of the gods.
Yeah.
Part of the god thing. I think Mars is the other one.
Mars is a new character.
Or like God of War, maybe? I don't know. He's got this giant fucking shield, and he like fucking bashes.
Yeah, that's Mars. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He fucking wrecks. It's pretty good. Yeah. They've also got like in the auto chess mod, they've got IO. I don't know if you've seen that, but IO is a unit that works different to every other one. I don't know, he, she, it. You can combine it with two other units. Sorry, you can combine IO with two other units as a sort of a wild card unit. So you can get your 3-star, your 2-star from just two other units, but it's always 5 gold. So you've got to weigh it up, right? Like, is it worth 5 gold to bump it up? And at 2-star, you can use it to get your 3-star, which would be interesting. That'd change the landscape quite a lot, because by the time you got to 4 gold units, trying to get them to 3-star, yeah, an 2-star IO would be pretty fucking helpful in that situation. But yeah, it's good stuff. I saw someone had 2 brawnies. That one where every kill they get extra. They had double stack of that. And they had some like fucking 11,000 HP juggernaut spinning around.
I found that Jug's the best one to get kills on most of the time. Or Beastmaster's pretty good.
Beastmaster would be good, yeah, I assume.
Yeah. Unless you've got an axe really early.
Yeah.
That is
getting
some kills, it's a bit hard.
Yeah.
But because you mainly set him up as like a tank.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's hard on that one. Yeah, man, I'm digging it. Like, I'm still playing it. I'll jump on at night and play a couple rounds. It's fun. Seems like a lot of people are still playing it. I see some of our crew that don't play Dota.
Yeah.
that are pretty knee deep in it.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as they keep updating it and making some good changes, I think it's coming on pretty well. Did I see some stuff about it doing like crazy numbers somewhere?
I don't know. I haven't seen any.
Oh, maybe not. I think maybe it's still going down. It got to a point. What was it? 200,000 was the peak players. It's pretty steady in terms of its peak players the last month?
Right.
3 weeks it's been out.
Yeah.
Pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Anyway. Cool.
Cool.
What else we got here? Apex Legends.
Oh yeah.
Season 2.
Yes. It's
Still
out.
playing a lot of it.
It's about.
Yeah.
It's extremely addictive. Yeah. and having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I bought Season Pass. You bought Season Pass.
Yep.
I think we talked about this because we enjoy playing it.
Yeah.
Um,
I love the map change. I reckon it's really good. You know, it's made a lot of new, like a lot of areas actually interesting to run through now. Not sort of just places you pass by on the way to other places, but actual locations worth visiting now, which is cool.
Yep.
Yeah. The hop-ups for the alternator and Mozambique and RE45 and P2020. The P2020 is still a giant piece of shit that isn't worth picking up, but the alternator is fucking awesome now. Mozambique's still a turd, but you can get away with some shit with it, which is cool. We
talked about that alternator last week.
Yeah.
Though I thought it was going to get nerfed, and it did.
Yeah.
It's still good.
Yeah.
It's just not as stupid as what it was before.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, it's still good. I've had a couple of games where I'm literally running around with a fucking alternator as like my main fucking weapon. If I got the hop up, I will do it 100%. Over an R99. If I don't have the hop up, then I will grab the R99 or an R301. But yeah, it's been like real good. I did want to talk about ranked. So I think they've got a problem with ranked. I think ranked exposes a flaw in Apex as esport, because it plays literally nothing like regular Apex. It plays absolutely nothing like it. And I don't think that's always a huge problem. I guess, quick play is very different to ranked play in Overwatch, for example. But yeah, it is just rank tanking, camping, garbage in Apex, and it's different compared to Overwatch. Overwatch gets away with it because at the end of the day, it's still largely the same because the objectives are quite clear. The nature of the game is different. It's not as structured. It's not based around strategy as much as it is based around general hero play in quick play, like general dexterity, manual dexterity, which tends to shine in quick play, whereas teamwork is what's critical in ranked and esport version of Overwatch. That's different to Apex because what's different between regular Apex and ranked Apex is the pace is so fucking different. And the pace of Apex is its like unique selling point is, it's a really fast-paced battle royale. It is about like go, 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 like non-stop fucking hammering the fucking pedal to the metal, fucking just careening as fast as you can onto the next fucking fight, to the point where I, honest to God, sometimes think that if I don't get into a fight early, I will lose when I get into a fight later, because I just don't, like, my nerves aren't in it, and most of my best games, most of my successful games are one fight after another, after another, after another, right? Like, yeah, it works. That's what Apex is, right? Is the fucking chaotic fucking pace. And ranked Apex is nothing like that at all. It is, there's so many fucking, I don't have a huge problem with it as a player, because it's generally my preferred playstyle, right? Like, it's why I've been enjoying PUBG again, is because largely I prefer the decision-making situation where you decide to not take a battle, right? I find that extremely compelling. The question of whether or not you fire, I find that question drives a lot of fucking tension in a game like PUBG. And so in Apex, I don't have a problem with not taking the shot. I do think, though, that from an esports perspective, it's just it's bad. It's bad for Apex because it won't look like Apex. It's the same as like Fortnite esports, right? Doesn't look anything like what people play in general. It's just fucking buildings for days, and people
building a fucking fort.
yeah, building
and
like
just
a
hiding
tower, and yeah, constantly building and building and building. Like that's not very compelling. Yeah, Apex, I believe, hiding and hiding and hiding because it's so different from the regular Apex experience, will be like bad for them. They need to properly incentivize people to go for kills. Kills should be worth 2 points in their ranking system. Obviously, I haven't done any fucking. I haven't even done napkin maths on this, but kills should be worth more. I think 2 points, and rejig the rest of your fucking ranking system to make it work, and don't cap it at 5, so people can literally chase kills to get, because that's what you need. You need people to go for kills. You do not want people going for ranking, because what winds up happening is you've got fucking the second last circle, and there's still fucking 6 teams left, and they're all just fucking
hiding.
Yeah, or
that extra point.
Or trying to like bait out that extra, like bait out a third party conflict to get someone to jump in and get killed, stuff like that. Or yeah, you wind up like we've done a couple of times with Watson, like sitting in a room, blocking off all the doors, and then taking potties for like minutes at a time, never actually going in because they don't have the fucking mobility to get around the fucking Watson walls. Yeah, like it's not like I said, I find it interesting and compelling and fun, but I do not think it would be a good spectating experience. I think it's fun to watch. Because yeah, you're literally just waiting and waiting and waiting, maybe taking a shot every now and then, but mostly just waiting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess for me the thing that I found is the level of play is higher, a lot higher.
Yeah.
As well, like there's a chance when you're playing casual, you can just run in and just steamroll people.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm up to I think gold 3 or gold 4.
Yeah.
One of those two. Yeah, man. Like you got to think about whether or not you take a fight, because everybody else that's in that match is either gold or platinum, or like high silver,
or getting dragged up because they've teamed up with someone who's in gold 3.
Yeah, and so like you've got to really think about getting into a fight, because they're gonna be good shots. They're gonna be good players. They know what they're doing.
Speaking of, sorry to interrupt, but speaking of the idea of me being bronze 3 and getting dragged into fucking gold 3 games with you because I team up with you, if I get fucking 7 kills and come second in a gold 3 game, I should get more than fucking the whatever 14 points or whatever the fuck it was that I got. I should get fucking ranks. They should put me up to silver or some shit, right? Like that's fucking stupid. I should not. Clearly, I'm better than bronze 3. I'm just gonna go fucking match on my own and go fucking stomp some fucking little bronzies? That doesn't make any sense. Like, if I'm killing fucking 7 goldies, then clearly I'm not supposed to be in bronze. That's how matchmaking systems work. Yeah, like, oof. It's built
I think that's
around grind.
They're not taking into account the players you're playing against. They're taking into account literally your kills and placement in the game, regardless of who else you're playing against. It doesn't matter. Yeah, and that's an issue. Like, I think I talked about this last week. The way that like Dota does it, and like their matchmaking, super intricate. They look at your ranking, and they look at the other the other team members on your team and their ranking, and it gives you like a score, and then it goes out and finds another team and tries to get you a similar team you're playing against, and then depending on the percentage of win chance you've got winning that against that other team will depend on how much ranking you gain or lose if you win. Like if it does that maths and goes, your chance of winning this game is not good, but then you win it, you get ranked higher, you get more points because you weren't supposed to win that game. Yeah, like it does that sort of shit in its matchmaking and its MMR, but this is purely just 5 kills and it's capped, and then your placement. So you get rank tanking. You're not getting there is far less like hot drops
Yeah.
and a lot more like there is not much left to go on this plane, and there's still 30 people sitting in here,
Yeah.
and everyone's like trying to think about where they should go because at that stage, and I think it's a good change still. In my position, it costs me points to play each round. Like I need to get a minimum amount of kills, or I need to get a minimum amount of like 2 points, which is 2 kills or I think rank 10.
Yeah.
In order to make any progress, and if I don't do that, then I'm losing progress.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good incentive, but I think the problem is the cap on the 5 kills is an issue.
Yeah.
Because if you get to 5 kills, there's no point playing anymore.
No. Well, you no point taking fights anymore. At least, right? You may as well just wait until. Yeah, just wait until the final circle. Which is not good, right? It's objectively not good. It's a straight up mistake. And I got fucking. I don't know. I'm still salty. I'm still salty about all those kills.
Yeah,
being worth nothing.
I'm still enjoying it though. Like I think the higher level of play is fun. It's a lot more strategic. You got to think about fights you get into. Like the other players are going to be good. I was playing with Kleb the other night until 5:30 in the morning. Like I've not. The last session like that I've done probably like 6 or 7 months ago, where I've had a really late session playing games. But we just played all night, like from 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the morning. We just sat there the whole time just playing ranked. We got up to gold, and I think we went to bed. We played a bit of casual as well. Like games are still popping.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
It was fun.
Nice.
Casual, still playing a lot of that as well. Every once in a while, I'll jump into the challenges.
Yeah.
And whatnot. They're cool. Thank goodness they removed the location-based challenges.
Yeah.
For the most part, there's still a couple in there.
Right.
But that was definitely ruining the experience because that first couple of days, it was like nobody would drop with you.
Yeah.
Like they would just drop to wherever their challenge was and then fucking see you later.
Yep.
Suddenly you're by yourself. So they've gotten rid of that for the most part. There is still 1 or 2 in there. But hopefully they just ditch that completely because location-based challenges are dumb.
Getting 200 points or was it 3 knockdowns at a location is like ultra frustrating because you are literally praying that someone else drops with you. Because if you drop at Hydro and nobody else drops at fucking Hydro, then you're not going to complete the fucking. So you basically didn't really choose where to drop. Unless you're lucky enough to have the fucking circle come to you. But I think there's something they've flagged my account or something, and the circle will always be on the opposite end of the fucking map from me. Like it's super dumb. I hate them.
Somebody did the maths as well that the way they changed the grind of before you would play, I think it was 70 minutes in order to get like a level.
Oh yeah.
It's now 5 hours.
Jesus Christ.
But the alternative to that is they've got the daily challenges and the weekly challenges, which give you like actual level up and whatnot.
Yeah.
I did see some graphs being like, you can definitely play the game and get to level 100. Here's how many weeks that you can possibly miss depending on your chances and whatnot. So that, I mean, it's still possible to get to 100.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know if there's an actual stat yet on the difference between the two.
Right.
But people were just looking into how the grinds have sort of changed.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of how they changed the grind at all, to be honest. And if I'd put that together earlier, I might not have paid for the battle pass, to be honest. Just because it seems kind of gross. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm up to level like 20 or around there, 17, 20-ish. Played a bunch, but it's good. Digging it. Really enjoying the new landscape, the new areas and whatnot. So it's good fun. All right, should we do some news?
No, what about the sinking city?
Oh, we haven't talked about that. Right, I missed that. Sinking City. Go on.
All right. So the Sinking City is a detective game. based in the world of H.P. Lovecraft, and it's sort of a open world, like free roaming action adventure where you play a private eye, a private investigator who
Batman.
not Batman, sadly, who goes to this city, and the city is slowly sinking, and you're going there because you're having these visions. You heard you could find more details about these visions if you go to the city. Everyone on the fucking island is having these visions as well. There's creepy fucking monster things that have way too many fucking legs roaming around, and the visions are all like freaky deaky type shit, of like tentacles and stuff like that. So it's Lovecraftian, like Cthulhu type stuff. Before it begins, it tells you that it's based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft, who had some unsavory opinions on race. He was a fucking out and out racist, like a hardcore racist, essentially. And he would weave this racism into his books. They state up front that they're not going to change any of that, because they feel it would be, I guess, intellectually dishonest. I don't like it. Doesn't carry out. It's not like people are roaming around dropping the N-bomb or whatever the fuck. There are instead, like, so far, what I've noticed are themes of like racial tension type stuff.
Right.
And there are some pretty aggressively worded words, like nicknames, slurs, that are used that could be analogs for real world racist bullshit. So yeah, like it's definitely there, right? And it's tricky to I guess accept it for what it is. But yeah, like I don't know, I sort of, I guess, you know, the thing is, right, it's easy for us to brush it off because he wasn't racist against white dudes, so it wouldn't really impact us, right? But I can see how it might feel extremely uncomfortable to other people. Anyway, you see it, like, in my opinion, it actually makes it feel a bit more fleshed out as a world, like a bit more real as a world, because it is familiar to what we understand as a world. You know, the concept of races not necessarily getting along. In this case, the fish-faced people and ape-faced people, and then there's regular old humans. Yeah, they're none of them get along. There's like murders. You investigate them. It's cool, right? The investigation stuff is quite cool. You've got a bit of a Batman style Sixth Sense to be able to look at a crime scene. You gather all the evidence, gather all the clues, and then you make your conclusions based on those clues, and use that to track down people and stuff like that. Like track down, a killer or something like that. Track down these visions that you're trying to find out more about, all that kind of stuff. And you get tasked with, these cases, and you got to investigate the cases. And at the end of a case, I've only done the first case so far, but at the end of the case, I was given the option to, lie and say that the guy, the murderer, was already dead, that I'd killed him, and or I could give him up. I gave him up because he seemed like a racist, but he was claiming that he had no recollection and that some sort of fucking sea madness had overtaken him, and that's why he murdered the other guy. I just didn't really believe it, so I gave him up, and I assume he was killed. It was I don't know how that's gonna like whether that's gonna impact my relationships with other people, but it seems like it would. It's interesting to go through and like you make conclusions based on the clues you've got. You'll be like, you shot him and he was wounded, and you chased after him, and you can combine those clues and be like this was no regular fucking argument. This was you murdered him, you chased him down, and you shot him in the head, right? And you can combine that shit together and present that fucking evidence to the other person to get them to try to get them to confess and stuff like that, which is cool. Yeah, that works really well. The broader world of the city that you're in, the sinking city. I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember any names from any of like. I absorbed the game and not a single fucking name. They're all kind of weird. So.
Is it Venice?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's Venice. Thanks, Luke.
No, no worries.
Yeah, the city has like all kinds of like it's got its own quirks and stuff. It's got like areas you shouldn't go to. It's quite large. It's got a boat because there's like sunken areas already, and you don't want to get in the water because there's fucking these eel things that eat you, stuff like that. And yeah, like it seems quite cool. I am enjoying it so far. I have to get into a bit more, play it a bit more, but yeah, for now, I think it's an interesting like attempt at melding, like at a because it's basically like Grand Theft Auto, but you play a detective, and I love like the era. I love that PI, the 1920s PI style era, and yeah, it's just a cool little world to explore, with some obviously quite dark shit going on underneath, which is cool.
Yeah. How does the detective stuff work in relation to, if you compare it to like Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishment, or was it?
Yeah, was that the one I played? I think that's the one I played.
Yeah, because that was the one where you'd have like these bubbles in the world, like your book that you'd look at, and you'd sort of connect clues, and that would branch out into different paths, and that wasn't necessarily the right solution to the puzzle.
It works
like
quite
you
similarly.
could fail it.
Yeah, you could get the wrong conclusion. You could put stuff together incorrectly. You can do the same in this as well. You get your clues, and yeah, when you're combining them, you can combine them to get the wrong conclusion, and it will lead you to the wrong area and stuff like that, and you might have to retrace your steps. The Sherlock Holmes game sort of took you from location to location. This one, you like make your way to these locations on your own and stuff like that.
Right.
Because it is, yeah, it's an open world. It's based, yeah, GTA style,
Yeah.
wandering around type stuff, which is cool. But yeah, the investigation is quite similar. I haven't fucked up my investigation yet, but I can see how I could have fucked up that previous investigation. There are a couple of opportunities where situations where I might have fucked it up. Yeah, which is, yeah, interesting. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard things about it. It just wasn't received that well.
No, it wasn't. I had a look at
Super
some of the
mixed.
reviews, and I had a read of the GameSpot review, which appears to be the lowest one, and that seemed pretty fucking harsh. Like, that was a pretty harsh review. It gave it a 3 out of 10. And yeah, it was, I don't know, it was a bit mean-spirited. I can dig the old, you know, sinking the boot in review, but yeah, I don't know. They went a bit ham at them. Yeah, but then again, that was their experience. It might have, yeah, they might have, you know, everyone's got their own experiences. Everyone's their own reviewer. So yeah,
Yep.
what are you gonna do? I don't know. I think it's above average, but I wouldn't drop everything to go play it. I just got into it because I like Cthulhu, and yeah, that's about it.
Fair enough. Yeah, sounds like it takes about 20 hours to finish all up
Right. Yeah.
for the main sort of story.
Well, yeah, I'll probably knock it out in 1 hour bursts.
Yeah.
But yeah. Cool.
Right, yeah. News.
News.
Overnight, Nintendo announced a new Nintendo Switch
Switch
device called
Lite.
the Switch Lite.
Hmm.
Couple interesting features on this one. Could you call them features or lack of features?
Yeah, a couple
Lack
of
of
interesting
features.
absent features on this one.
So there's no IR port anymore. There is no like little latch on the back of the device that you could use it to like stand up on tabletop mode. And they've removed the ability to be able to play it on a TV. So there's no dock anymore.
Yeah.
I guess the other one is that the controls on the side, which was the whole like marketing thing behind the Switch, it's part of the logo. Like the ability to remove these controls off the side are now attached to the device. It's all one.
Hard attached.
It's all one thing.
There's no HD rumble, which was a massive portion of the fucking selling point of the device as well. They're not IR capable. Yeah, you can't switch it. It doesn't switch to.
It's not a Switch.
There's no switching. There's no switch, which is wild. Better still, unless they are deliberately improving the Joy-Con controls. I'm on my third pair of Joy-Cons. They literally degrade with like through normal use. They will like straight up just wear themselves out because of the fucking joysticks that they're using. Like it is one of the most common problems with the Switch itself. So if they haven't fixed that, the Joy-Cons don't come off. You can't replace the Joy-Cons, so your Switch Lite will literally just be broken. For me, inside of a year. Yeah, which is fucked. Utterly cooked. Like, I cannot understand how this exists. This is... People are saying it's the 2DS all over again. It's worse. It's so much worse than the 2DS.
Yeah.
Like, the 2DS got rid of 3D, which I never turned on anyway, and didn't seem like it had much, like, point to it. This is... Yeah. This is fucked. It doesn't switch. It's missing so many features. It is $120 cheaper or something like that.
Not even.
100, yeah, 140. Yeah.
No, it's like on sale at the moment.
Oh well, yeah.
It's on sale at the moment, and it has been cheaper for $3.99 in Australia.
Yeah.
The RRP for this one is $3.30. $70 difference. If you're going to buy a console and have a choice between the two, I'm going the regular version. The price point needed to be like somewhere in the 250s to 200s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably 200.
I was just counting off the RRP, but yeah, the RRP for the fucking dock itself to buy a new dock is $120. So at current sale price, the Switch, like, you are basically just getting fucking ripped off. $60. You're missing out. It's such a fucking yeah, it's dog shit. I cannot understand how they came out with this.
I've seen a couple Nintendo fanboys. They are on board with this thing.
Of course they are.
Unsurprisingly, talking about how they don't use it on their TV anyway.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. I'm gonna get one.
Yep.
Fucking hell.
Absolutely insane. Even if you don't use it on your TV or whatever the fuck, you should still get a fucking regular Switch, because the fucking Joy-Cons are gonna break, and it's going to mean the death of the entire fucking console. It's like literally built into it. They are fucked. They're made of low quality. The joysticks are made of low quality materials that literally wear themselves out. It's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I just, man, I don't know. They could have done such a good job with this. I feel like they could have just made it what they're doing, make it smaller. But the price point to me is the bit that's like, it just doesn't make any sense. Is why is this even a thing? Why is $60 difference or $70 difference?
Yeah.
This doesn't need to be out there at all.
No.
It's such a strange decision by then. If it was, like I said, $200,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Like, then there's some appeal there. Because it's missing a lot of those features the main one has. But it's missing way too many features the main one has for it to be $70 difference.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I don't understand the thinking behind this at all. Like, you've got, man, it's just so strange. You've got people like Xbox who are, this play anywhere stuff. You can buy a game on your Xbox and you can play it on your PC, like a first party game. Or, like, they're going in a direction of, you can buy a game once and you can play it on multiple devices. And they're trying to, like, do this whole thing where it doesn't matter, if you want to play it on your Xbox One, if you want to play it on your Xbox One X, if you want to play it on your PC, if you want to play it on whatever the next Xbox is going to be. Like, they're just going, like, if you own the game, you can play it. Whereas Nintendo's like, oh no, we're going to have a different SKU, but we're removing all these features from it. Like, they're trying to make it harder for you to play the fucking same games.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense for me. Like, why is there not some sort of streaming thing? Like, Xbox has the ability, and the PlayStation have the ability to stream off your console to your whatever, your TV, your computer. All right,
your
there's
phone.
no dock. Yeah, your phone. Like, all right, there's no dock.
Yeah.
Why can't I stream it to my TV using whatever?
Yeah.
Like, if that was a feature on there, okay, maybe let's talk. I'll come to the table with you, Nintendo, but that's not there, as far as I'm aware. I didn't look at it much when they announced it, but like, there's a solution that they have completely missed that everybody else is doing. It's yeah, I don't understand the thinking behind this. It's really strange to me. All right, what else we got here?
Speaking of Nintendo, huge fucking errors. Dr. Mario World is out on Android and iOS, and it is a shameless cash grab where you can pay $50 to play for an unlimited amount of levels for 60 minutes. $5 for 60 minutes. Yeah. Fuck that shit. I just wanted to add that while we're sinking the boot into Nintendo. That's just garbage. I guess not enough people forked out $10 for Super Mario Run or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
So they're going down this direction, I guess. Yeah, it's using the classic energy system. Yeah.
I am going to install it right now.
Cool.
So that I can be informed.
Of course.
And poop on them properly.
Solid. What else we got? StarCraft cartooned. I don't know if you saw this, but
I did see
it's sick. I like it a lot. They basically released a texture pack which retextures every single fucking skin in StarCraft and makes it cartoony. It's in the style of, I think it's like a popular YouTube series.
Okay.
The beloved art style of Carbo Animations or Carbot Animations. I'm not sure. And yeah, I actually think it makes it look super distinct, like super fucking visually distinct. It does everything in the game. It does like the menus, the maps, the missions, the units, everything. Like, it's all, and you can, play every single version of the game with it. Obviously, it's for the. Do you have to buy it separate? I'm hang on. I thought it was just a fucking reskin. I'm no longer that wild about it. Fucking Jesus. That's amazing. It's $15 to buy this. It is StarCraft 1. I thought it was for StarCraft Remastered. I thought it was just a free skin. That's amazing. Well, anyway, it does look very cute and very visually distinct, but
fuck them.
But not for $15. That's insanity. Cool. Okay. That's why I should read the entire press release. Anyway, what else we got? G2A attempts to improve their image and fails in a hilarious fashion.
Did you see this?
Yes, I did. You go. You tell us.
So G2A is a online CD key store that has a lot of flack from
developers,
developers, from the way that they are. Basically, it seems like they purchase stolen keys, or like people that are able to purchase stolen keys using things like fake credit cards and then sell them on their store. And so they're basically trying to say, no, that's not like a thing that happens on our store. It's legitimate, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're trying or attempting to improve their image. Like, hey, here's the actual truths about it and whatnot. And the way they're going about doing this, they've been hitting up websites and saying, we've got a pitch for you. We want to improve our image. Here's an article that we've written. Can you post this, but don't mention that we've written it or that it's from us? Which is fucking crazy.
It's bananas. It is, yeah. Like, we're an ethical company. Here's us doing something wildly unethical. Is so fucking crazy. I cannot understand how they would do this. Yeah. Fucking hell.
They've come out and said it was basically sent out by an employee of theirs without their like authorization.
Yeah.
And that it's not acceptable from them.
Yeah.
But
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It is crazy. Like, not like here's a promoted article, but just don't disclose that we've written it for you, and that we've also and that it's got anything to do with us. Thank you.
Ugh. I cannot believe. Yeah. Oof. They must have sent it out to a bunch of people as well. 9 other
Kotaku
media
reported
outlets.
9 media outlets.
Right. That's fucking crazy. Oof, man. Jesus Christ.
I have thankfully never bought anything from that site.
Yeah. Either
despite them being quite cheap. Fuck that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck that. Cool. Well, yeah. Fuck G2A. Yeah.
That's the news of the world.
There's one more. What are you doing? You keep fucking...
Lord of the Rings. Keep jumping all over the fucking place with this news stuff. Just go in order. It's not that hard.
Lord of the Rings MMO is being developed by Amazon Games. So it's not just Amazon Games, it's also Athlon Games, which is owned by Layu, which is a multimedia conglomerate who own, I believe, Splash Damage, is it? And another company, another shooter company. But Athlon has nothing to do with that. Athlon announced this last year that they were partnering with an, at the time, unnamed development studio. It has now been revealed that it's Amazon Game Studios. Yeah, it's going to be a free-to-play, PC and console-based Lord of the Rings MMO. There was a Lord of the Rings MMO before. Lord of the Rings Lotro. Remember that? Did you ever play Lotro? I didn't. I played it for like fucking half an hour. Didn't really get into it.
I don't think I did.
Yeah. I don't know what to take away from it. Apparently, Leo owns Warframe.
Okay.
So yeah, they do have Digital Extremes. Then is the other company that Leo owns. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're able to share some resources and some teachings from that. I don't know. It's cool. I want to play a Lord of the Rings MMO. I'd check it out. I'd be about it. Yeah.
Cool.
Hmm.
I have no thoughts because they haven't shown anything.
Okay, then. Cool.
Yeah. All right, that's the news of
That
the
is
world
the news.
for this week.
Yep.
You got any questions?
I'm gonna buy a NAS this week.
Right.
This weekend. I've been looking into it. Looks like I'm gonna grab a Synology DS418. And I'll tell you what, buying a NAS is pretty boring. It's a lot of, like, all the comparisons are like, this one has 2 bays, this one has 4 bays. Otherwise, it does nothing of much interest.
Yep.
So yeah, it's basically just,
It's a shell.
it's a shell for some giant hard drives. Anyway, we do have questions. July. Yep, that's correct. That is the date, you moron. Drew Money, Dr. E3 Money writes, what about in Underlords if your attacks matter as well as your defense? So if your attack wins, loses, you are rewarded, punished as well. Maybe this is part of the turbo mode, so you get 5 gold for successful attack, 5 for a successful defense, and bonus for win streaks on both fronts. Maybe be able to see both boards at the same time, the attack in a window or something. There is your double gold and double damage. Experience effectively doubled as well. Thoughts? Luke, thoughts?
I
like the idea of
think there's just
window,
too much to
like
look
picture
at.
in picture. I like the idea of picture in picture. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting. I don't think they utilize all the screen space all that well in Underlords as it is. But then again, there's so much of the fucking Underlords UI that I don't apparently never fucking notice anyway. So maybe I'm not the best fucking.
Might already be in there.
Yeah, might actually already exist. I think this that would be an interesting way to like go about changing things up until they add in proper head to head. Yeah, but until then, yeah.
I feel like it just adds more into the game that is just unnecessary. Like already, there's just so much shit you can look at.
As an idea for turbo mode, I reckon it's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, but you could just do the head-to-head thing and just double the gold and experience just off the bat.
It's true. That is true. Anyway, good question, Drew. Thanks for writing in. Write us questions. Send me an email. Don't tell me which NAS to buy because I'll have already fucking bought it before it's fucking.
It's already gone.
It's happening. I'm fucking in the process. It's gonna be like, yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about waiting until Raspberry Pi 4 came out and building something out of that, but then that would require effort. I could spend an entire weekend putting that together, or I could buy a NAS and spend half a day setting it up. Probably easier. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Good stuff.
All right, that's it. That's the show. Nice short one this week. We're going to chuck an extra bonus section on the back of this one.
Yeah.
So you're like, what the fuck? This episode says it's 4 hours long, but you're only talking for an hour and 40 minutes.
Yep.
What is this craziness? We have a surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
Nathan, Mr. Nachos Justice, is going to talk about E3 and everything that he saw about E3 for about 2 hours.
It is a giant chunk.
Short.
It's short. It's short by Nathan's standards.
Yeah.
But there's an extra heaping of bonus awesome for all you listeners, courtesy of Mr. Nathan Nachos Justice, which is pretty exciting. It's straight up his thoughts, like his unfiltered thoughts on E3. It was his first E3, which is cool. And everything he saw. And I believe it is everything he saw.
Yeah.
Literally everything. Check it out. Don't turn off. Don't switch off the fucking show yet.
No. I mean, there's less of us on there, but it's got him.
Yeah.
So that's all right.
It's like...
It's all good. All right. Stats coming up after this bit, but you stick around and he'll start yapping on. He's got a bit of a sore throat, or he was sick, I think.
He was sick. He was sick as a dog, yeah.
So hopefully it's fine. I've listened to about an hour of it so far. I haven't finished it yet, but it's good. It's good. All right, so if you want to find the Gap, you can find us on iTunes, Android, Windows Store, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere, all those places. Under the Gap, the GA podcast, you can search for us. Please rate and review the show if you can. Helps other people find this show. We appreciate everyone that does that. And if you want to send us questions, you can email us, thegapodcast@gmail.com. You can jump onto our Discord page, thegapodcast.com/Discord. Joab loves the messages. Send him messages. Just message him all day, every day.
Well, let's not go too far.
Do it. Play some games in there. We've had some Underlords. We've had some Apex. We've had some
PUBG.
I think that's about it. No, we're not. We're not playing PUBG.
My bad.
I killed the channel. It's dead.
I apologize.
You jump in there. It's good fun. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/GA Podcast, twitter.com/GA Podcast. You can watch this show on YouTube, thegapodcast.com/YouTube. And our website, thegapodcast.com, has links to everything we just talked about, including our previous episodes of this show. If you want to go back and check out what we were doing last week, you sure can do that. And that's all thanks to our Patreon members who help support the website and the servers and everything that we do on here. If you want to help support the show, you can go to patreon.com/GA Podcast and become a member. And thank you to the people that do that every month.
Thank you. You're the best.
And I think that is it.
That's it.
Anything you got going on this week that you'd like to talk about?
No.
Sames.
Nice.
I'm also Sames. I'm not here next week. I'm going to be playing a secret game that I can't talk about yet, and I won't be able to talk about for a while.
Cool.
But we'll be back. We might have to record on Friday sometime if we can do that.
Okay.
So it might be a little bit later than usual, but otherwise, I think we'll both be back next week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, here's Nate talking about E3.
Hi, Nate.
Hello and welcome to a Nachos only special edition of The Gap for E3. The gents at The Gap have kindly let me have a big solo rant about everything that I saw at E3. And that's what I'm going to do now. My voice is slightly different because I've been having some back-to-back big nights, but the hope is that it makes me sound sexier. Anyways, I went to E3 as a guest of Bethesda, and I'll start with their games, but before I get to that, Joab asked me to do a little bit of a, what was the experience like, and I guess like before E3 starts is really when the madness begins, to be honest. For me, getting my schedule down pat was tricky. We were dealing with a time difference, whether you're dealing with local PR or you're dealing with international PR. Certain publishers were fantastic, and I think they had access to systems that allowed them to lock things in without having to leave a note to lock something in, and then the US team would then approve or or not allow, which happened a bit, where it'd be like, yep, you're locked in for this session, and then next morning you'd have an email going, nope, can you pick another time? So there was quite a bit of schedule juggling, particularly because I wanted to achieve the impossible, which was to do as much back-to-back-to-back as possible, running around between appointments, between different halls, and even leaving the convention center and then coming back. I wasn't always able to stay for everything for the full time. Sometimes I had to leave 5 minutes early to basically run outside to get somewhere else, and other times when I was at outside appointments, I had to allow extra time to come back because you had to go through security, and they check your ID, and these people were really bad at reading IDs, apparently. At least this one guy who just he'd read my name and go, yep, okay, you're good, go through, and then he'd go, wait, and check it again. I think that happened 2 or 3 times with the same guy. Bit bizarre. I'm sure he was checking lots of people, but not the best when you've got to then dash up some stairs, put all your stuff through security, have your ID checked again, and then, basically jog to whatever appointment is next. Most appointments were about half an hour. The hour ones usually were about 50 minutes, which is great, but the half-hour ones tended to be pretty bang-on close to half hour, so it was really a case of picking how much do I need to see this game, how much do I need to see this game for my clients, versus how much do I just want to see this game for me, so maybe I have to leave a little bit earlier to accommodate that. But you know what? I'm happy to say that everything that I put in my schedule, I got to see, with the exception of one, Joby. which was supposed to be a back-to-back appointment for WRC 8 and B Simulator, which are, prime for my K-Zone Kids magazine writing. I got to play WRC 8, but the station was taken for B Simulator, and therefore I was unable to play it, and, didn't have enough time left to wait. So I left. So only one. But I did manage to carve out time and turn hour sessions into half-hour sessions, or sometimes to 15-minute sessions. I don't know why they blocked off an hour for certain games, but I was then able to get onto the show floor and actually play more games than what I had originally intended. So, let's jump into it with Bethesda. They showed off some expected stuff, Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein Youngblood in particular. There was a eating of humble pie for Fallout 76. Now, I never really got into Fallout 76 outside the beta. I personally just didn't think it was tracking too well. You might call it jaded, but my take was that Fallout games, the solo ones, tend to launch in a state that kind of needs bugs ironed out over the course of however many patches before they can reach that true greatness without your immersion being destroyed by a crash or whatever problem happens. So I thought that plus online, I'm like, this is risky. And there was concerns at the beta stage. So when it came to release and I was talking to buddies who were playing it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait. Because, it's a live service and you hope that down the track they are going to fix it. Now, for anyone who watched the Bethesda conference, they would have seen that Fallout 76 has made some pretty big pledges. It had an unexpected Battle Royale mode that's coming to it, which, I'll give that a crack. My off the top of my head and from what I've seen in the videos, it sounds like it's pretty imbalanced in terms of just, overpowered abilities and perks and whatnot. I saw a video of a guy with a grenade launcher that he was kind of jump strafing to use over cover, and then to get the final kill he used invisibility, like an invisibility perk that didn't seem to be Predator invisibility, where you can still see that outline. It looked like it was actual just full invisibility, and he kind of toyed with the last kill before finishing him off. Firing his weapon didn't even seem to take him out of visibility rather. So yeah, that it could be good for a laugh, especially if you get the right drops. But I guess I'm less interested in getting a Battle Royale experience from Fallout 76 as much as I am them taking it closer to what you'd expect from a Fallout game. And the big announcement of the inclusion of human NPCs, which are coming later this year, is absolutely a step in the right direction. And I had a big chat with a couple of the devs, and it sounds like it's heading to a place where it's one of those games where I'm actually really looking forward to playing it once that content drops. As for Doom Eternal, it's fantastic. In one word. That's coming from someone who felt that Doom 2016, I want to say, was okay. The core gameplay loop of the shooting felt really good. But I found that I kind of wasn't getting the enjoyment out of it when I was playing in longer bursts, and that I found the most sort of fun I was having was when I was playing it in 30 to 60 minute bursts, as opposed to 3 to 4 hour sessions, where I felt it got quite repetitive. And the formula of run into a room or the doors shut, clear all the demons before you can move on. I felt like it was it was a good start, but there was definitely room for improvement. The multiplayer, well, the less said about that, the better. But id Software has acknowledged that the multiplayer is not what they wanted it to be, and so it's been scrapped for Doom Eternal when they're doing their Doom Slayer versus two demons thing, which is really interesting. Didn't get to play it, but I did get to play Doom Eternal solo for about an hour, and it's really satisfying. The ways they've built on the combat loop, particularly coming out of Rage 2, which I felt like Rage 2 had better shooting than Doom 2016, but it was clear that they had taken a lot of inspiration from Doom 2016, so they kind of built on that logic, and that core shooting gameplay loop of Rage 2 was really, really solid. So Doom Eternal, kind of going, okay, we're going to one-up it again, feels fantastic. I'm actually really worried for anyone who's going to be playing it on a controller, because even keyboard mouse, it was tough. Apparently it was fixed on normal difficulty, and in my interview with a couple of the devs, they mentioned that they'd lowered the difficulty somewhat. So it's definitely got a fantastic sense of speed. And for any old school Doom or Quake fans who love that kind of Twitch shooter mentality, it's really good. And they've kind of mixed up the a lot more demon enemy types, which is great because there's no one weapon solution for all of them. Certain ones are definitely there to be squishy and to be killed in certain ways that allow you to get back things like health, armor, and ammunition. In fact, there are specific things you do to them now to get that from them. So if you chainsaw them, you get ammunition from the top of my head. If you flame them or grenade them, you get armor. And if you glory kill them, you get health. So you're really kind of like thinking about all of these different things while you're trying to crowd control a lot of demons. And then certain ones, you think that you can hit with a rocket launcher, but they dodge or they throw up a shield, so you get the splash damage in your face. And that rocket launcher is very Quake 2 for me, which, is... Depending on how much you love your Quake rocket launchers, I think Quake 2's rocket launcher was my least favorite, just because it was slow. But this is slow and super powerful, so you really feel that sense of risk-reward, and it feels kind of really different to the other weapons, which feel a lot faster. I mean, outside of the super shotgun, which is a glass cannon, fire it once and then you're super exposed. But the underslung grappling hook to get you in closer is a fantastic touch and a good way to get breathing space between you and the stacks of demons that are inevitably chasing you around. So I'm very excited to play more of that, and they've kind of promised that, as you get closer to the end, it's not going to be like you've seen all your enemy types and all that sort of stuff. So it feels like they've really thought about the idea of keeping it as fresh as possible, but also making sure that you, the player, feel empowered at all times, and the player that has the ability to switch weapons on the fly. And I think the analogy they used was it was like speed chess. And it really does feel like you're having to make these tactical decisions. And the sound design was particularly impressive because I've got the UI, the HUD, but it's a bit busy to try to keep a track of everything as well as what's going on in front of you. So the sound design that's letting you know that certain abilities are back up, or you've taken a hell of a lot of damage, so you don't really have to glance down at your health, is on point, and is the kind of stuff that you would need to feel that when you die, it's because of you and not because of the game not giving you proper damage feedback or something like that. As part of that session, I also got to play Wolfenstein Youngblood cooperatively, and it's a lot of fun, honestly. I'm a big fan of the Machine Games Wolfenstein series. So far, I didn't like the Old Blood so much. I know that's apparently a controversial opinion. I just felt that it was a step backwards. I mean, I know it was a prequel, but it was a step backwards in terms of its gameplay from the New Order. And while the new Colossus I did not enjoy as much as the New Order, mainly because there was a whole lot more storytelling, and I don't think that the gameplay loop necessarily was beefed up in a meaningful way, although I did enjoy the story for the most part. There were some particularly good in-your-face twist moments that are very satisfying. But it had kind of a sudden ending, and anyways, Wolfenstein Youngblood has BJ and Anya's twin daughters playing the two leads, which means that it's a time jump of 20 years, which for, Wolfenstein lore fans, LORE fans, it's going to be some fun speculation. I tried to, in my interview, get a little bit of information about whether the time jump will impact where Wolfenstein 3 is set, because this is not a core Wolfenstein game, this is a spin-off. They were very clear about that, and saying that, the guy said that there's more gameplay here than the New Order, which is great, and it's a game that I've always felt since even the New Order that it would have been benefited by co-op, but they've completely designed the levels with co-op in mind. Feels like there's more pathways. It feels like the levels are wider to allow for two of you to flank around. It's added health bars, which some people are finding, I guess, controversial, but it was a little bit jarring at first. But then when you come up against certain enemy types where you're hitting them, but they're not taking damage because they're stupidly heavily armored, and maybe you're using a lower caliber weapon. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it worked, but it's felt like that's how it works. So you've got to kind of play bait and chip away at them, and then hope that your buddy gets around behind them to hit him in the weak spot. I found that was okay, I get why they've potentially done this to give you that feedback, to let you know that you're being ineffective up front, and the enemies do seem to take quite a few shots to go down, even the regular grunts, so you're rewarded for your headshots, and Getting up and close and personal with your shotguns, and the new weapons feel great. And the deeper upgrade system, though I didn't get to go too far into it, sounds like it adds kind of like a great level of gameplay versatility. I did a boss fight, and it was tricky, and it was built with co-op in mind. And we running laps around this particular enemy, and getting each other up and dealing with ads and stuff like that. Had a lot of fun, so I'm really looking forward to that when it comes out later in July. I also got to play Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, which is the VR thing, which is about like a hacker who hacks into different Nazi machines and causes carnage. Now I basically got to play similar. Well, it was the same robot. It was like one of those big mech things that has rocket launchers and machine guns, and it really did feel like a power fantasy moment more than, because the enemies seem to be very ineffective. Since I last played it at QuakeCon, they've added in the ability to repair, and there was something else, a shield. Yeah, so there's a little bit more to do than just like switching between rockets and machine guns and mowing down waves and waves of Nazis. The AI doesn't seem to be that great. I'm hoping there's a little bit more diversity in that, but I think it's only intended as like kind of like a 3-hour experience start to finish, albeit with incentives to replay. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have a VR headset, so I'm not going to be playing it. It was way less my jam than Youngblood. What else have I got here? Oh, Commander Keen. Commander Keen is coming out back again. I was very excited when this was announced because Commander Keen is one of my earliest gaming memories, alongside, was it Dangerous Dave or something in the haunted house? I don't know. I can't remember the name of it, which is really bad. But that kind of side-scroller action experience, and Commander Keen was one that got a lot of play in my household growing up, and my first id game before Wolfenstein came on, Wolf 3D that is, and blew my mind and my brother's minds. So yeah, I was really excited. But Commander Keen is it's different now. Like, it's not the platform. I thought they'd go for the platformer when they said, "Hey, Commander Keen's coming back." Oh, okay, this is perfect. I mean, it's a mobile game. It's platformers which have fewer input requirements than your average mobile game, or if you're converting something to a mobile game, it makes sense to do platformers, I think, over other genres. And it turns out it's this, I don't know, like a card game hybrid, real time, but like it looks like it's turn-based, but it's not. It seems to be played out in real time. It's going to have a story. Apparently it's canon, which is very interesting, because during my interview, the lady that I spoke to said that she knows who Commander Keen's mother is, which, if you follow your idverse connected universes stuff, BJ is the grandfather, if I'm recalling correctly, of Commander Keen, and Commander Keen is either the father or the grandfather of Doom Guy, depending on who you talk to. So for anyone who's big on that Doom lore, or that id lore, I should say, because the Doom lore, I understand, has become massive now since Doom 2016. I mean, it was obviously big before, but they keep putting in more and more stuff, and Doom Eternal is set to push that. It's interesting that they're really thinking about that, and that they're not saying, hey, this is a spin-off, this is its own thing. They're like, no, this is connected. So for people who care about that, I think that's pretty cool. I didn't get to play it. I'm not, it's, like I said, I was a bit disappointed that it wasn't the platformer, but I'm going to reserve judgment until I've played it. It doesn't really seem to be the kind of game, like the gameplay, that will grab me, but I'm always, I know the Gap guys, other Gap guys have talked about it, how you're always on the lookout for a new mobile game, and certainly Fallout Shelter captured my attention in a way that, not no other mobile game, because Plants vs. Zombies 2, I've put in like 40 hours to that game, and I come back to it probably every 6 to 12 months to see what they've added, and I find it really satisfying, and I tend to play it and, in bursts, and then it stays installed, and I come back to it. Fallout Shelter, I wasn't particularly in love with when it launched, but I reinstalled it 6 or 12 months later, and I found it really satisfying. I think I've played it 2 or 3 times since then. But yeah, so again, always on the lookout for a new game. Always want to be, like, oh, it doesn't really look for me, but I'm going to try it because I love Commander Keen, so why wouldn't I try it? But the one that definitely wasn't my jam, and it was one that I played at QuakeCon, last year and played again this year on Switch is Elder Scrolls Blades, which is like primarily intended as a mobile game as far as I'm concerned, as far as the core design is, but it's playable on a number of platforms. It's kind of cool that your progress can carry across different platforms. It's free to play. I don't really know too much about the monetization side. But for me, what I find to be like why I think, like this is me making sense of why I don't connect with it, because, you know, I'm an Elder Scrolls fan. I adored Skyrim. And I feel like what it's missing is that depth, the translation of the depth. You know, I play an Elder Scrolls game for a deep RPG experience, and this, out of the fact that it's been designed primarily, or initially at least, for mobile, means that it seems to kind of lack that, whether that's in controller input and things like that. I just find that it's not giving me that satisfaction. But when you go to something like Fallout 76, where they've completely switched genres, it still has that depth and decisions and things. It still feels like a Fallout game, but it still also feels like kind of like, yeah, your decisions are being rewarded, and the more that you play, the more you level up. The risk-reward gameplay elements. It just made me want to go back and go, hey, I want to revisit Fallout 76, because I haven't played that in a while. Oh, not Fallout 76, sorry, what am I saying? Fallout Shelter, my bad. But Elder Scrolls Blades, it's something that I want to be good, because, you know, a Elder Scrolls game that you can play, like have in your pocket or play on your tablet, sounds great, but yeah, I just don't see it being the kind of game that captures my attention and I can sink dozens of hours into. I'd much rather get into Fallout 76 or Elder Scrolls Online, which is something I've started to dabble in. I want to play more of, especially because it's now gone into that Skyrim, you know, part, which is of great interest to me. So, whatever. I don't know. I think I've got to give it a better chance, but at this stage, I've played it twice, and I mean, I've only played it, you know, like briefly, 10 to 15 minute sessions, but I just haven't found, like, even though it's clearly improved from QuakeCon, I haven't found that I'm like, yeah, I really want to play more of this. Like, it just didn't grab me. The other games that weren't there but were announced were Deathloop, which, I mean, it's made by Arcane, The End. I have to play it. The CG trailer looks really cool. The premise sounds really cool. The idea of two warring assassins in some sort of, what is that movie? All You Need Is Kill. It's not called that, though. It's called Edge of Tomorrow. It should have been called Live, Die, Repeat. But that idea of if there was two Tom Cruises with, you know, goals that are at ends with each other and they can both reset every time they die. I'm really interested to hear more about that game and see how it plays out. I adored Prey and Dishonored, the series. I've actually got to go back and play Dishonored 2 because at launch and for a long time after launch it wasn't optimized for the 900 series card that I had, so it would just felt like it would just lose frames every time you stepped outside. It felt like a memory leak or something like that. But it's one of those games that I intend on going back to finishing because I recently went back and finished Evil Within 2, and I finished Rage 2, and I finished Wolfenstein 2. So I had these games installed that I had finished like 90% of, and I never just was like, nah, I'm not going to finish that. And it shat me. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to go and finish these. So I guess making it relevant to Ghostwire Tokyo, Evil Within 2, I thought for sure Evil Within 3 was going to be announced. But no, it's a new IP. It's, you know, I want to play it. I liked enough about Evil Within 2. I didn't really like Evil Within, the original. I felt like it was too, you know, corridory, you know, and then they added bits like the Call of Duty style, get on the minigun and shoot waves of enemies, which I don't think really fits in that survival horror genre at all. Evil Within 2, I think, started out really strong. That second level, which was the open approach town, and the more comfortable you get, the more you realize that there's, you know, you can't just sneak everywhere. The erratic movement patterns of the enemies made it harder, and then there was that creepy ghost bride that would arrive every once in a while and stalk you, which was terrifying, especially because you had to manually save. So I guess I was save scumming a bit, but I was save scumming in the sense that I was, you know, planning my treks out to complete objectives based on how likely I was to get back to a save point, to make sure that I didn't lose the progress. I didn't want to get frustrated with it, but I definitely appreciated the tension of and that open approach. I think I spent 6 or 7 hours just on that second level. The more you got into the game, it kind of went back to that sort of more linear corridory stuff. There was 1 or 2 exceptions later in the game, which I enjoyed. The boss fights were particularly frustrating, especially the flamethrower guy, until you realized how easy it is. I won't tell you how. You've got to go through the frustration to figure it out. But I was making my life harder by trying to shoot him. Let's put it like that. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this new IP. But again, it was a CG trailer, so I want to know more. I want to see some gameplay. I want to have a deeper dive on it before I make a call. Now, I'll move things to a chronological order now. First day I landed at E3 was the Saturday before it all starts, which is actually when EA Play starts. So I was able to check into my hotel, but then there was this whole fight with them because they took way too much money from my debit card, some of which is still coming back, but I really wanted a shower, so I was willing at the time to wear that. Anyways, it's going to be sorted, but basically got in at 7 o'clock, I think, to the hotel, had a shower, and then I think EA Play started at 9:30 on the stream, so I fully intended on watching all the streams, but it got a bit, not relevant towards the end, to be honest, and I wanted to make sure that I got there with plenty of time to get in to my first appointment, which was for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now, what you saw on the live stream was a clipped version of what I saw in the BCD, but I was going to go on a deep dive on this, but there's no point because just the other day EA released the full Kashyyyk level, which starts off with Cal, the main character, creeping up on some AT-AT, so you've got that awesome God of War style scope, which Stig is one of the main dudes behind it. He's old school God of War, so it was great to see that. And even though it was hands off, I was basically, when I went into my interview with Stig afterwards, I was like, man, why didn't you show the full half hour? He was saying that he said it was a challenge to even get the 15-minute clipped version. I'm like, oh, really? It's like, yeah, apparently there's all this research into how long people pay attention for, and it's something like 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh, damn. So I feel like the clipped version was not the best representation of it. I know people were saying it looked like funnily and repetitive and this sort of stuff. I think adding that extra bit at the start, especially as a Star Wars nerd, so you see those prequel trilogy era dropships or gunships rather fighting against TIE fighters, and massive nerdy moment for me, which is great. But I've heard from a couple of people who actually got to play it, with a very select few who did, that it feels great. Like the combat feels great, and that's the main thing. That's the main thing that you can't really translate, right? Like, how does the combat going to feel? Is this all the powers that you get? There is a skill tree of powers that you can unlock. So I'm hoping that has some depth, and I'm hoping that has some risk-reward options, and it's not one of those sort of Far Cry 3 style skill trees where you look at it from the start and you go, oh my god, there's only 5 things I want here out of the 30 or whatever it is, and it's just going to be like, I don't care after that, and you finish the game with like 40 skill points because you just don't care about investing it into stuff to make the game easier. You want to have more gameplay options. But as a Star Wars fan, I'm very excited for a full-fledged canon Star Wars story, and yeah, it's looking good. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it's going to be fantastic. I also got to play one of the new maps for Battlefield 5. Anyone who watched the presentation saw they did a big thing on all the maps that were coming, all the content that's coming. The Pacific Theater's coming, which is, fantastic. I think it should have been sooner, but, whatever. Like, I think Battlefield 5 is going to be one of those games, kind of like Rainbow Six Siege, that as long as they keep supporting it with content into the future, it will stay installed on my machine. And it'll be one of those things that I revisit. Now, it's a bit of a shame that Firestorm has not received the same level of love, but I feel like anyone who's left Battlefield 5 because they're sick of the same maps and the same guns, dropping in probably end of the year when there should be quite a few more things will be great. So it'll be good to see that. I feel like the player base will hang around a level that it's good enough to check in, like to do your weeklies to unlock your weapons, or if you're lazy like me and you can't be fucked, you check in the week after and you buy it with your company coin, because I've got like 200,000 or something, and it only costs 1,700 for a new weapon. Although I do enjoy some of the challenges. They've made them a bit better. Some of them are just like too focused on a mode or a play style that I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to grind on this. I'm not going to have fun. But this new map is kind of shaped like an L, I believe, off the top of my head. No, a banana, shaped like a banana, that's what they said. It's infantry focused, there are no tanks, there are no planes, which I love because I feel like ever since like Battlefield 4, I want to say, was that the one that had close quarters or was it 3? Anyways, whichever one that was, like people were like, "Oh, you're going to make some infantry-focused Battlefield stuff. That's not going to feel great. That's not what Battlefield's about." But I feel like the gunplay held up really well, and people were sort of worried that it wouldn't be, as good as COD or whatever. You can have your own thoughts on that. But infantry-focused maps are great, and I think a good palette cleanser from the stupid maps like fucking Fiel, where you've got infantry versus planes, which is the dumbest shit ever, until they introduce proper stuff to take down the planes. Like, it's just, whoever designed that, like, how did that even get past approval? Like, it's literally planes versus infantry, where infantry don't have a chance outside of fixed AA things that, like Battlefield 1, all the flyboys learn the locations, they bomb the shit out of them. Yes, you can rebuild them, but they prioritize it, and they can get away from it pretty easily. If they keep going at you now, the flak at least does more damage, but when they turn tail and run and come at you from another unexpected angle, like, you're dead. So anyways, yeah, infantry-focused map. I think it was made by Dice LA, but it was good. It felt good. I mean, I only got to play one round, top of the ladder, of course. But yeah, like some good choke points, contested choke points, albeit with flanking routes, where there's a bridge in the middle that was hotly contested and some different angles you can get to. Didn't feel like the grenade spam thing was a problem. It always felt like you could have multiple approaches to the particular capture points, and it was pretty easy to get around behind and back up. So I'm looking forward to seeing that in the rotation. I got to briefly play the new Apex Legends legend, but the legend who had played before me was clearly sweatier than I am when it comes to games, and had rebound the keys away from WSAD. It's something that I've intended on doing for a long time, but the EDSF thing, it threw me, and it threw me more when R wasn't reload and caps lock was reload, and I wasn't playing with the best team. Not that I was the best at it, but I got to briefly use the new abilities, but not enough to really comment on it too much. I think that adding a defensively focused legend is an interesting step. I'd like to see what it does to the meta, but I don't know. The meta seems to be way more aggro, so I hope that it's tuned in such a way that it disrupts that, because that's what you want, right? You want the Rainbow Six Siege approach of disrupting metas for your live service games. At least that's what I think. Now, I played FIFA 20. I suck at FIFA games, unless we're going back to OG. We're talking Mega Drive level ones where I just used to dominate. My eldest brother used to want to beat me up because I figured out how to score, goals from halfway, and I don't think he ever figured out how to do the curve kicks, like bent like a Beckham. So yeah, it was pretty satisfying. Plus, you could run away from the ref perpetually, and if you stood in the right spot when the goalkeeper was trying to kick off, you'd headbutt it and you'd be able to boot it past them. None of these tactics were appreciated by my eldest brother, but that's fine. I beat him all the time. FIFA 20, I played against someone. I would have preferred to play against the AI because I'm not very good, but I think they were trying to get a lot of people through. So I played against someone who was a lot better than me. I think that what they talked about with the changes sounds good. It definitely felt like there were, more opportunities in the one-on-one. The changes to the ball physics felt good. The addition of an aiming reticule, though, while I don't know how that will work on, same console matchups, because they'll see where you're kicking it, or do you control the goalkeeper? I don't know. It felt good for people like me, especially because there's that sweet point between like holding the shoot button in particular for too long and not holding it enough. So you get either this piss weak kick or you boot it off the back of the field, and either way, it'd feel terrible. But I had a few breaks and didn't score ultimately because I was not great at it. But it's also, to be fair, I mean, this is pre-release version of the game, it felt like there were still those easy goals you could get by, angling it across the keeper, which is something if they're going to do, I wish they'd maybe even make it a bit more random or something, so that it doesn't happen all the time, because this guy definitely got a couple of goals that way. Not ideal. I didn't touch anything else at EA Play, so I didn't play Madden, I didn't touch the Sims content, and we weren't allowed, I think it was influencers only, or game changers only is their term for the Anthem content, so I was not allowed to touch that, but it would have been nice to see what sort of changes they're making, even if we weren't allowed to talk about it. But that brings us to the end of the first day, or day 0, day -1, I don't know what you want to say. And then, Sunday was There was the Bethesda Bethesda conference that I've already covered. There was the Microsoft conference, which I'm not going to rattle off all the games there. Keanu Reeves stole the show, of course, coming out and talking about Cyberpunk 2077. I stood up. Basically, the whole crowd stood up, like instinctively, as soon as he stepped on stage. It was awesome to see the reveal of him in the trailer, and then him to step onto stage. But I think they left just enough breathing space between that and the new console stuff at the end. It would have been great to see Halo Infinite played like some gameplay rather than in-engine, although the in-engine stuff looks stunning. It looks like tonally they're trying to tell a story again, like a more meaningful story rather than whatever that fluff shit was in the last Halo game. I was not a fan of Halo 5's story, solo, co-op. It was just not great. But the online stuff was. Except for Warzone, I want to say, or whatever that big one was, which was like RNG crates to get tanks and stuff, and I had like 1,000 mongoose, whatever the thing is, the little unarmed car, quad bike. But it was super dissatisfying, and it felt like they were really encouraging you to throw money at it, which just it feels icky when it's random, and it feels worse when you're paying full price for something. And I think if they'd removed that and just gone back to a more traditional big scale mode, that mode would have been great. But it was kind of ruined. But the regular mode didn't have any of that shit, and it was fun. And the esports focus mode, which I always forget the name of, was also good, like a faster paced Halo, and it felt great at that higher speed. I'm really looking forward to playing it on PC when it releases, but I'm slightly getting ahead of myself. But new console news, like as if they weren't going to announce it, has some SSD in there, especially after what Sony announced earlier about the PS5 or whatever the fuck they're going to call it. I think that's really good for gaming in general, especially because consoles become, lead platforms a lot of the time. And it means that they're making design sacrifices based on the hardware limitations of what's available on consoles. So it means that you get things like, slow walkie-talkie sections to hide loading that's happening in the background, or elevators, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm hoping that there's a big push towards not just like higher frame rates and obviously the higher fidelity, but more towards things like that, like quality of life in terms of actually getting to play the game. I recently finished Days Gone, but it was a struggle because just to get into the game, like it takes a minute to load the menu, and then it takes a minute to load your save, and it's just not ideal. I mean, I've gone back to Darksiders 2 because I never finished it. I actually want to play Darksiders 3. So Darksiders 2 loads the game, and when you hit continue, if that's what you want to do, you don't want to fuck around with loading a certain save point. It's just you're in the game, it's loaded the game world. Why can't more things do that anyways? Frustrating. They didn't really, they should have shown gameplay, I think, for anything, just to show what it was capable of, whether it was higher frame rates, but it felt a lot like basically they were just doing what Sony did with we're not really going to do a massive deep dive on this, we're just going to touch on some things. But, I guess we'll be learning more about that in the next year and a half. I went and saw a little peripheral that had me interested because it was effectively it looked like a mouse with a joystick on the side, which made me feel like it was going to be aimed at first-person gamers, and they were very quick to say during the presentation that it was most definitely not at all aimed at first-person shooter fans. In fact, it's called the Lexip PU94 Space Controller, and you're like, space controller, man, it's a mouse, what are you talking about? But we get away with it after the presentation for calling it a space controller because it's designed to be a mouse meets a joystick, effectively. So you can actually, it's kind of hard to describe, but when you put your hand on the mouse, you can move the mouse, not sliding it, but actually move it on different axes like you would a joystick. So you can play your Space Sim, and you can control different things with that, and then you've got the little thumbstick to control other functions. So the intention is for something like Elite Dangerous or whatever other Space Sim you like to play, is that it's freeing up your left hand for a lot of the keystroke stuff, right? But the right hand is able to control more than it normally would be able to. So when your hardcore flight sim people, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they tend to use joystick, mouse, pedals and all that shit, but also keyboard. So you have to shift your hand between stuff, and this mouse is specifically designed to get rid of that. I don't know if it's as accurate or anything like that. In fact, I believe they're sending me a unit to play around with, and I want to do that and give a more detailed report back. But for Space Sims, I'm like, okay, I can see where they're going for. And they also showed me a bit of like Anno, the latest Anno game 1800, which was cool as well, because you can move the camera and you can zoom in and out, you can set different functions, and at like a hardware level, you go and fuck around with the software and it copies over your things to the mouse itself, your presets and whatnot. But like it was like, okay, again, my biggest pet peeve about playing strategy games these days is that WSAD doesn't really control the camera anymore. It's used for functions, and you kind of got to use the cursors of the keypad. No, so the cursors, that's right, arrows. And then jump back between those two, which is, again, you don't want to move your hands away. Yes, you can rebind, but default state is what I tend to stick to unless it's really bad, and if it's got really bad default things, I think that's bad as well. But they also said it's not designed for hardcore RTS. It's designed for city building games and more chilled stuff, and so that sounds great. But honestly, I'm looking forward to testing it on some of my favorite RTS games to see if there's an edge and whether it's capable of doing that. Even though they've said that they're not targeting that market, I also want to see how it goes on shooters, which I don't think it'll go as well on. But what was interesting was instead of using Teflon coating, I believe it is, which is the average thing that's used for basically all your mice, which deteriorates over time. So the hand feel, as opposed to the mouth feel, Joby, of the mouse starts to, the performance deteriorates over time, and you can't really, as far as I'm aware, you can't really upgrade it or whatever. So what they've done is they've added these 6 ceramic half disc things on the bottom that apparently make it slide a lot better. They said that they tested it out with a couple of pro teams just to see how it felt. Like, this is pro shooter teams, as far as my understanding is aware, just because they wanted some feedback from some pros, and they both got stuck on the idea of like how awesome it was, how good it felt at colliding. And so they've released this, I don't know, mouse upgrade pack that lets you glue 6 things to the bottom of your mouse. I don't know if I want to try that on my main mouse. I might try it on another mouse, but I'm very excited in the sense that mouse technology I don't think has really moved that far forward in recent years, and people compete on DPI and all this stuff that's been the competing point for the longest time. Wireless was the last big jump for me, the Logitech wireless, which actually feels like a wired mouse. I use the G900. G903 is out in the wild, and I'm very interested in, although it just seems to be more incremental returns unless you want wireless charging. But I don't, because I use a giant mouse mat, which you can apparently get around, but it's more that medium-sized mouse mat. But I prefer lower sensitivities. Anyways, rant. I'm interested to play more with the P94 space controller, and I'm hoping that the ceramic things that they've got on the bottom, I'm hoping that they've patented it for starters, and I'm hoping that starts to feed into other mice if it's as good as they say. But, I'll report back at a later date. Back to a little bit of Microsoft stuff, because I actually got to do some BCDs, behind closed doors, which I thought were intended as hands-off, but actually both became hands-on for Minecraft Dungeons and Minecraft Earth. Now, Dungeons is basically best described as Babby's first Diablo. It's for anyone who likes those style of games and wants to play them with the kids, or wants to play like a family-friendly version, or just likes Minecraft. There's very little mining unless you're talking about mining loot, and there's no crafting. So it's definitely intended as that dungeon crawler action experience. I got to play it a bit, and it was fun. Like, absolutely, I will play that, especially because they've got procedurally generated biomes. So, one to watch out for, especially for the Minecraft fans. As when Minecraft Earth is the mobile version, it's an AR, like it's a Minecraft experience on one hand, but it's also an augmented reality, via augmented reality, and the other part of it is sort of more like a Pokemon Go thing, where you go out and you collect your resources and then you bring them back home and do your typical Minecraft thing, where you can actually build like that. What was it? HoloLens. That HoloLens presentation at E3 from a few years ago, which was fantastic. It was mind blowing. Like, they've taken that idea and they've put it in the palm of your hand. My biggest concerns are, like, the phone I was using, the phone they provided was heating up quite a bit, and battery life, I think, would you definitely want a power bank, or you definitely wouldn't want to be playing this thing for too long, or you want to be playing it at home on charge. And, it's early version of the tech, so I'm sure it'll get better, but it was very impressive for Minecraft fans. And you can, bring your friends into your own world, and they can either just see it, like you can send it to them to show it off, what you've built, or you can let them play with it, but then they can do permanent damage. And we got attacked by like zombie mob, and we were shooting arrows, and like they were launching fireworks and smashing giant holes in this beautiful treehouse that they'd built. So yeah, again, for Minecraft fans, that's awesome. And like I was saying earlier, for someone who's looking out for that kind of mobile phone experience to do when I'm out and about, I will definitely be keen to look at that more. This is, I should have mentioned earlier, this is in order. I'm looking at a list of the games that I played, what I touched, seen, and talked about, or as an interviewed about. And this is in order of when I touched them, so you'll probably see me jumping around a bit between publishers. But I got to play Control, which is Remedy Entertainment's new game. Now, I'm a massive Remedy Entertainment fan. I've loved Max Payne. I loved Max Payne 2 more. I was a big Alan Wake fan, even though that wasn't as good as Max Payne in my opinion. And I've got to go back and finish Quantum, whatever it was, of Solace? Quantum Leap? I don't know. I don't remember what it was called. I'm sorry. But I've got to go back and finish that because it's Remedy, and I enjoyed what I played. But anyways, Control looks to be like the best version of their kind of formula, like that mix of Max Payne's combat with little trappings of Alan Wake in terms of how you're supposed to interact with certain enemies or take down the shields and whatnot, and then you've got the powers that they had in Quantum Break. Hey, there we go. I remembered. So I'm looking forward to that. I got to play, I don't know, about 30 minutes of it on a PC with an RTX card, so I had ray tracing, and this is the best version of ray tracing that I've seen to date. It's not just that single thing, like, Battlefield 5 has reflections in glass, reflections in puddles and things, which is impressive, to be honest. I've seen it, and I think it's great. And the gains on the frame rate that they've managed to put in since launch is impressive, but this was like 3 or 4 different technologies playing together, and for anyone who's got a 20 series card and can run it at 60 frames, wow, it's pretty impressive, and it's immersive. It's an optional extra, but yeah, I liked it. And the gunplay felt really good. The mix of the powers, super organic and easy to pick up and play, and the hints at this bigger, darker conspiracy story were definitely my jam. So I'm looking forward to playing more of that. After that, I played Iron Harvest, which is a big Company of Heroes fan, so it's like a diesel punk, or whatever they call it, steampunk, or version of Company of Heroes, effectively an alternative history where World War I played out differently. I think Tesla survived or something is the backstory. And you can see, like, playing it for a few minutes, you can see the Company of Heroes influence. You've got the cover in particular for your troops. You've got limited troops that you can build, so it's not like, they've got 50 troops per faction, unless they're going for that, but they didn't seem to be. And you're capturing points of interest, although it didn't appear to have the control zones and the frontline things that they had in Company of Heroes 2. I don't know, I think it was in 1 as well, where you could cut off supplies. They didn't seem to go with that, which is fine. You've got to do your own thing. But what was cool, what was very impressive, was that you can, on the fly, convert your infantry units. So if you unlock certain pickups on the field, or if you kill certain enemy types, they will drop, like they do in Company of Heroes, they'll drop equipment, but instead of you kind of like converting, or partially converting some of your troops and then sending the others back, or sending your troops out who you don't want around anymore, but you want that pop cap back, so you just send them out to die, you can actually convert your units to something else. So you convert your regular grunts to medics or to grenade launcher troops, and it was really satisfying. I've actually been playing a little bit of the alpha since as well, and I mean it's pretty like limited in what's available, but I'm like, this is definitely one that I'm keen to play when it drops. I spent a bit of time with AMD, and they did a CPU and GPU rundown, 15 minutes per person. We flew through a bunch of stuff. The big takeaways were that, it looks like it's a stage again where AMD is able to compete on both fronts. Now, That was what they showed me in terms of their presentation gains. It looks like they're actually, finally being able to compete with Intel, which is good. Like, it's better gains and things, and some interesting technologies that are at play. And in terms of GPU stuff, they don't have RTX yet, ray tracing, I should say. So that's an interesting one, and I guess that's why they didn't talk about it. But they were showing, again, according to their testing, some small and some significant gains over comparable NVIDIA cards. So I've always been, not always, I've been an Intel NVIDIA guy for the longest time, because back in the day when I used to buy AMD stuff to keep things cheaper, I got burnt, literally, the age where they ran so hot that they would scold you or they would crash your computer. And since then I moved to Intel NVIDIA, was happy to pay a bit more for the reliability, and I've never had a problem since. But when it gets back to that stage where they're competing on these sorts of games, I'm like, you know what? I'm interested. Let's, I'm really curious to see if I can get together an AMD build at some point, and take it for a spin. Like, I would love nothing more than to be, like, to get rid of that old mentality, the old, age-old thing of Intel and NVIDIA have my loyalty because they haven't fucked me over, as opposed to the competitors now in a state where they're beating you, and if you're not competing with that, then what are we talking about? Like, ray tracing, I think, is really impressive and important, but for me, competitive gaming is what I prefer more than the offline stuff. And while I would appreciate the bells and whistles of a 20 series card or whatever comes next, I think FPS gains are pretty important, particularly important, especially with the rise of competitive gaming, battle royale and things like that. Like, more and more people are getting into online gaming, and they're starting to see that, hey, 60 frames per second doesn't cut it. I want the more gains. So yeah, it's going to be interesting and good, I think, for Intel and NVIDIA to have to step up their game instead of just kind of waltzing through the generations. After that, I got to see a hands-off presentation of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. That is super impressive. I honestly thought that they were going to take the earlier LEGO Star Wars games, spruce them up a little bit, add in some more content, and then just add in episodes 8 and 9, which I believe are the only two they haven't made a LEGO game out of. No, they've completely built this from scratch, and it's got this amazing open world feel to certain parts of it. You can play the things in any order, which isn't unexpected, but you can go and visit certain planets at different times, and if you visit during episode 4, apparently episode 6 stuff won't be there, if you're on Tatooine or something like that. It is a game that I'm genuinely excited about, not just from a Star Wars nerd perspective. I'm like, this is impressive. You guys have gone above and beyond the call. I think it's not out until next year, but I'm really, really keen to play it. The last LEGO game that I 100%ed was LEGO Indiana Jones, and that was however many years ago. And I think for me that was really the last time that a LEGO game impressed me, because they were still doing new stuff. And now they've gone back and they've added a combo system to the combat, so it's less just button mashy. And you're supposed to, if you're playing as a Jedi, for instance, you're supposed to combo your force powers with your lightsaber swings and things. And then they've also added a better shooting system. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is finally they've gone, okay, well, let's do something different with the LEGO games. Really looking forward to playing that. Excuse me. WRC 8 was next. I'm not a big racing guy, but it felt pretty good. I like the idea of, off-road racing is always fun, or more fun for me than racing on a tarmac, which seems to be pretty the samey over and over again. But for this, what I enjoyed about it was that the better you do, the faster you do a lap in this particular scenario that I played, the less likely you are to hit the rain. So, for instance, the guy laid it out for me. He said, if you get around this first part really fast, you're going to get to the end and the rain will have just started. But if you're slower, if you're crashing and stuffing up your corners and things like that, not doing it at a great speed, you're going to get the rain much earlier, and that's going to impact the performance of your car. And that's exactly what happened to me. I'm not a big racing guy, and the old overcorrect, the physics on the cars feel pretty fair, to be honest. So yeah, for racing fans, and I'm not one of them, that is definitely one to keep an eye out for. I had a quick stop by with Turtle Beach and Roccat. I don't know how to say that. I probably should. They have joined forces. Turtle Beach has bought Roccat, which is not exactly the newest of news, but they said they were still trying to figure out who's handling what and who you talk to. So they didn't really have anything super new to show off per se, but like I was touching on earlier with my NVIDIA Intel thing, like I've been a Logitech fan for the longest time, and the main reason I've been a Logitech fan is because they just haven't screwed me over. Like, the stuff has always worked well and performed well, but I'm always open to trying new things. I'm less Logitech when it comes to headsets these days. I'm drawing a blank. But whatever it is, it's good. Anyways, I'm always open to trying new things, especially when it comes to comfort for headsets. I think that's really important for long play sessions. And the keyboard and mice stuff that Roccat is doing, I'm like, okay, it's pretty interesting. So I'm definitely keen to take some of their stuff for a spin, but this was just sort of more like, hey, check in and have a look at our stuff that we released recently, more than anything else. After that, I went to a presentation of The Outer Worlds. Now, that's Fallout New Vegas in space, basically. And depending on how much you liked Fallout New Vegas and how much you like Obsidian games will depend on how excited you are for this. I think it looks great. Like, I was a big fan of Fallout New Vegas, and returning back to the earlier point I made and right at the beginning of this rant, I didn't like how buggy it was. In fact, I put in 20 hours maybe, and then had the intention of coming back once they'd patched it, and then classic me, never did. I've heard that it's been community patched to an amazing point, and if I had time, I'd say I'd go back to it. But if I'm being honest, I'm probably not going to go back to Fallout New Vegas, but I will take the Outer Worlds for a spin. It looks great. It's literally that, Fallout New Vegas in space with some new stuff and some more like gameplay additions and things like that, but the level of player freedom and choice and role play your own way, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely my jam. I cannot wait to get my hands on with that. After that, I got to take Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair for a spin. Anyone who played the Yooka-Laylee was like that kind of third person platformer thing, very much in the vein of the old, like Donkey Kong and things like that. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, except for the ranting, like instead of dialogue. I think they eventually added the option to turn it off or to skip it, but it was painful. But the gameplay was fantastic. Now, for the Impossible Lair, they haven't made a Rigidage sequel as much as they've just made kind of like a spin-off, I guess, set in the same universe, obviously, with Yuka and Laylee, but it's a 2.5D side-scrolling platformer. It very much in the vein of the old Donkey Kong style of gameplay. I think even there's an ex-Donkey Kong dev or lead on it, which makes a lot of sense because that's exactly how it feels. Now, what's cool about it is it has a mix of those levels as the main gameplay, and then it's got an overworld, sort of like the old school Zelda, or Link's Awakening specifically I'm thinking of here, where you can go and explore and unlock new things. The cool point of difference is that every level you play, you can go and do this thing to it later that changes it. Like, it might put it on its head, or it might flood it, and it changes the way it plays. The other really cool thing is the Impossible Lair in the title is this final mission, or this final run, where I don't think you've got a certain amount of spare lives if you've played through the main game, but you can actually try to tackle it straight away. The chances are you're going to get your ass kicked, so I'm looking forward to trying it initially out of the gate and probably failing it, but seeing those YouTube videos of someone just playing it for the first time and just smashing their way through it. I think that's going to be fun. I did spend some time with NVIDIA, but to be honest, they have embargoed me until further notice. There are certain things I can talk about, but I'm not sure about the things that I can't. What I will mention is that we had a deeper dive on the control technology there, which I'd previously played and experienced, but they went into a lot more depth about it and showed off some stuff that was particularly impressive, which I really enjoyed. And in my conversations with one of the guys who was demoing stuff, we got to talking about the new generation of consoles, and obviously they're being built on AMD architecture, and it was interesting that I think both Sony and Microsoft have made mention of ray tracing, but it was the opinion of this in-the-know chap that it could only really be software-level ray tracing because AMD doesn't yet have it, unless they've, for some reason, not included that in their new line of cards, AMD, I mean. for whatever reason. It appears that it will be a software level, which I guess is okay. I think it's similar to what you can do on your 10 series or certain compatible cards. If you don't have an RTX card like me, I have a 1080 Ti, and I think there's certain games I can play on the lowest possible level of ray tracing, which I don't think really is worth it. But you don't really get to see those jaw-dropping, amazing technology stuff at play. So that's interesting, and I guess that's something that will be talked more about in the future, and as people who are more knowledgeable with that kind of stuff, like Digital Foundry, tear it apart. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. Next up was one that Joby is very excited about, and I'm very excited about. It's Man-Eater. It's Shark PG, they call it, and they describe it as GTA as a shark. And I get where they're going from, but like you play as a shark and you upgrade the shark, and it's less about jacking people's boats and driving it around as a shark. Although I would play that game, and it's more about you munching on different things and people, and evolving your shark in different ways to be able to better attack. Whether it's the evolved creatures, which is like these bigger, tougher enemies, and the more you eat in their area, the more it entices them to want to come out and have a crack at you. So I really like the idea of that, but it was a hands-off presentation, and it looks like a lot of fun. It has Dr. Spaceman. I'm blanking on his name. I'm so sorry. Also, the voice of Cyril Figgis in Archer. He does the voiceover for the game, and it's like this amazing tongue-in-cheek, partially informative, partially piss-take stuff that just makes you sets the tone for this game, which is to be hilarious and to be entertaining, and less about some sort of Soldier of Fortune level gore physics when you're smashing people, you're ripping them to shreds, and it's definitely meant to be a whole lot of fun, and I cannot wait to play it. I didn't get to play it, but I had to sit down with one of the main devs on Chivalry 2 for an interview, and that game, they released a little teaser for it. It sounds interesting. I think the game, I can't remember, that was between Chivalry and whatever they're doing now, didn't go so well. It was an attempted melee combat game with magic, and I think it bombed. But it's good to see that they're still around and making Chivalry 2. I asked the burning question about how do you feel about Mordhau, and he was like, well, it's room for more than one melee combat game in the world. And it sounds like they're really kind of leaning more into both into the farcical side of things, where I think you can pick up a chicken and beat people to death with a chicken, which sounds hilarious. So the meme potential is already off the chain. They're also going to 64 players instead of 24, I believe, which was in the original Chivalry. They're putting in horses, which are already in Mordhau. And they're doing an overhaul of the combat system to make it feel, in his words, to make it feel more like the kind of cinematic combat you're used to. So what you've seen in movies in terms of sword fights, you should be able to do in that. I believe also 1v many fights should be more achievable, so you feel more like a badass. I just hope, and I asked about this, and it seemed to be a somewhat satisfying answer about the thing that ruined Chivalry was, for me at least, was the glitches that they did not ever patch out. So people were, hitting you in their overhead swing by exploiting animations, and they were doing these things called rainbow strikes, where they would swing it and they'd spin their camera around, and it would just allow them to do 360-degree damage. May that be fucking gone. Otherwise, yeah. Because when you go and read the Mordhau Steam reviews, you see people going, this is basically Chivalry 2, or if you love Chivalry but you hated the glitches, go play Mordhau. And I'm like, Mordhau has been an amazing success. It's a lot of fun. It's a game that I want to go play a lot more of. But like the guy said, I think there's room for Chivalry 2. And if Mordhau and Chivalry 2 are competing against each other down the track, and both, kind of doing their own thing in certain ways, but also going back and forth, the competition is good, right? And I guess Chivalry 2 has the advantage of being able to see what Mordhau's doing and to iterate on that. But also Mordhau has the advantage of being there now already and impressing and building on that. So yeah, I'd like to see them both be awesome. I got to play some Xbox stuff. Well, Microsoft, I should say. The first thing I ran to play was Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Holy shit. That's all you need to know. But I'll say a bit more. It's fucking awesome. It is exactly what you want. Now, I think I've mentioned this in the past on the podcast, or definitely have had in a chat with Joby, but when I played Age of Empires Definitive Edition, not 2, the original one, Definitive Editionized, I got really disappointed really quick because a lot of what I remembered as being quintessential Age of Empires was in Age of Empires 2. Now, I mentioned that to the devs, both in the hands-on session and in the BCD that I went to later, because I'm fucking love Age of Empires 2. I just wanted to hear more about it. And they're both like, everyone says that. Everyone remembers features from Age of Empires 2 and assumes they were in there from the beginning. So that jump from Age of Empires to Age of Empires 2 was amazing. Now I'm going to jump between my hands-on and the BCD. Like, it looks gorgeous. They've added zoom. But they have apparently untouched the gameplay. That was the biggest request. And I don't know if that's a good thing. Like, it's interesting because I loved the gameplay, and certainly, but I never played competitively. I only played, with my buddies against AI or the campaign. But I remember having chats with people and talking about the idea that they weren't very balanced, the factions. There were certain dominating ones. So, it'd be interesting to see if that's a thing and how that impacts the competitive scene, which is still around for Age of Empires 2 original version and Age of Empires 2 HD. But they're definitely doing the right thing by the fans, and they were talking about, well, if you want the gameplay unchanged, how do we make it definitive edition? And so they've added all these little quality of life things. My favorite being that there's now an auto reseed option for farms. I just paused for applause then. I hope you were clapping. For anyone who played any of the Age of Empires games, you'd know what a fucking pain in the ass it was to remember to go back and check on your farms. So if you're a fan of Age of Empires 2 or you missed it, Definitive Edition is a no-brainer. It's definitely one to play. I cannot fucking wait for it to drop. I'm going to sink a lot of hours into that, and I've even been playing Age of Empires Definitive Edition just to scratch that itch. It's definitely a strategy series I'm hoping is brought back to one of the big contenders when Relic makes Age of Empires 4. But Age of Empires 2 is dropping later this year, I'm pretty sure, and it's going to kick all kinds of ass. I asked whether Age of Mythology is going to happen. They said they're going to do Age of Empires 3 first and then have a look at the other stuff. So please, if you loved Age of Mythology, like you fucking should, let them know that you want it next, or you want it coming. You want them to Definitive Editionify it. Totally word it, because it's going to be awesome. Play Battletoads, 3-player couch co-op. It's pretty cool. The brawling stuff, the fisticuffs, final fight style shit, was really, really easy, especially with 3 people. But then they had the racing sections, which are just as punishing as you remember. But my biggest problem with the racing section was that 2 of the toads have very similar silhouettes, and even though they're different colours, I would often glance down at the wrong one, because it's a race scenario where your character's at the bottom of the screen, the track's coming at you from the top, and you're more concerned with what's happening ahead of you than watching which character you are and where they are. So there were definitely a few deaths that I felt were the fault of the game, especially because when you're racing together in co-op, you're bunched up together and it's easy to lose track of them. So I hope they do something to fix that, but it's good to see that they're still maintaining the punishing difficulty, and I'm a sucker for a couch co-op game, so definitely keen to play more of that when it comes out. Played the Forza Horizon 4 Lego DLC. It's already out now. If you're a Forza fan, play it. If you're a Lego fan, play it. It's a lot of fun. I love how they go goofy with their DLC for the Horizon series. They did Hot Wheels for Forza Horizon 3, and it was a lot of fun. So it's good to see that Lego DLC is there. I played Bleeding Edge, which is some new, Overwatch style hero shooter thing. I played a round of it. I didn't switch characters out. I just played with this one tank character, and it was a pretty close match. And you're fighting over control points, and they lock at certain times, and they open up. And they might not all open up at once. They might only open up one to force you to duke it out. You've really got to work as a team to take down even individual characters, and you've got to know when to engage and when to get away. You can convert into like a faster kind of form, which for my character was to convert into a bike, like a motorbike. Other people had hoverboards and things like that. So you got to know when to disengage, but I was a tank and I was trying to engage, and my teammates were running away. It's probably why we lost. Anyways, didn't really love it, but it was okay. Keen to play more before I pass any massive judgment on it. But I'm not really into that style of shooter, though I did appreciate that it didn't feel like the kind of game that is always going to end in a trouncing. So that's definitely a step in the right direction. I had hands-on with Gears 5? Gears 5, no longer Gears of War. It has a new escape mode, which is pretty interesting, and the setup is that your character gets swallowed by one of those snatches or whatever they're called, and you wake up in the heart of a whatever the creatures are. Oh my God, I'm blanking on everything today. Anyways, you wake up in one of their hives, and you've got very limited ammunition, and there's a gas bomb that you've planted that is slowly creeping up on you, kind of like a circle in a battle royale game. So you've got to get out of there, but you've got to, there are periods where you can sneak past enemies, and there are certain enemies that will stay unalert if you sneak past them, but that chews into time. You've really got to manage your ammunition amongst people, and there's special abilities, one of which is to drop ammo, so you definitely want to be using that whenever it comes up. But yeah, there's often firefights where you just run out of ammo, so you just kind of had to run in and punch them. I think it's a really cool mode. We played on the hardest difficulty, and we had a crash the first time. We got annihilated the second time, so definitely keen to play that with competent team of shooters once it drops. But I'm a Gears fan, and I liked what they did with the last Gears and where it ended particularly. So I'm keen to see what they do with this one. Hopefully they continue to escalate it in all the right directions, because it's looking good. And then before they kicked me out, I very briefly played Halo Reach on PC. I was unable to invert the mouse. Heathens. Which meant I got spanked, but it feels really good. It's punishing. I was worried it was going to be easy. It's not that easy to pull off headshots when your mouse is doing the opposite of what you want it to do. But yeah, you better believe I'll be taking that for a spin, along with certain other Master Chief Collection items when it drops on PC later this year, allegedly. Also had a quick stab at xCloud, which is Microsoft's streaming, game streaming to your mobile devices thing. I should have known that the reason why people weren't playing on this particular station was because it was problematic. I don't think there was a flaw with it. I think that because I was playing Resident Evil 7, which is super dark, and it really did not translate well to being able to see what the fuck was going on. But what I did notice was that there is a noticeable input delay, I should say, when you're trying to control what's going on. I was playing on an Xbox controller with the mobile phone on a little attachment sitting on top. So it definitely means that this technology is not one for anything twitchy or anything like that, and it has room for improvement, especially because the Stadia coming out, and Bethesda also mentioned, what was their thing? Orion. But that's an engine level middleware, if you'll allow me to make a Silicon Valley reference, which should help to improve things in terms of that's what they're claiming. They're claiming it's got lower input and it uses less bandwidth. So hopefully those sorts of technologies used in unison lead to something that is definitely playable. I know in the past I once set up my PS4 to be able to stream to my Vita, which was the last time I used my Vita, and then I went on a bus and played over a tethered 4G connection. I tried to play Horizon Zero Dawn. It worked for a little bit, and then it just dropped the fuck out. So I love the idea of being able to do that. Australia's data caps will have to rise to meet it. But I think that it's going to be interesting next generation, because obviously there's next generation consoles coming, and there seems to be every generation that the experts are predicting that it'll be the last. But this may well be the last, especially if bigger companies start investing in their streaming stuff more, because they clearly see it as the future. Microsoft's doing it, Bethesda's doing it, Google's doing it, EA's doing it. So they want to be able to stream games to an install base of something like 2 billion compatible devices. At least that's how many devices were estimated to be compatible for Minecraft Earth. That's a big deal, and you can understand why it would be attractive. Obviously, they've got to fix the input stuff, and they've got to worry about the data requirements, especially the higher resolutions that you get. But look, I'm interested. I if I can not have to buy 10 years from now, buy a console and just stream it from some high-end PC. And for me, that will push PC gaming back to the forefront, which tends to happen at the end of every console generation, which is happening right now because PC becomes the gold standard of what games will look like in the next generation. So I think in the next year, we're going to see PC as lead. I always love this point of a console generation. So, yeah, if they get it right, definitely keen on it. I love the idea of it, but, obviously internet speeds in Australia and data limits, treating fucking data like it's mined out of some rare resource is not good. But hopefully they get it right. Anyways, we'll know more once they get close to release and they do their public betas. I played Ghost Recon Breakpoint for about 20 minutes. It's good fun. I like that it feels a little bit more hardcore. Enemies feel a little less spongy. No, am I getting my games confused? Maybe. No, maybe. Anyways, it definitely seems like one that I'll be keen to play co-op. I have no interest in playing it solo with the AI. They were not great in Wildlands. Definitely a game that you try to play as much as possible cooperatively with your buddies and get up to various shenanigans, try to go stealth and then end up going full loud. Lots of fun. So I think the little additions to the formula will be great too. We did an assault on a compound that I think you got to see in the first trailer they released. New things like being able to cut through the fence and then jumping through that way, and it seemed to go down a whole lot easier. Teammates were getting shot up and you had to go revive them. The enemies were pretty good at flanking. They were coming from everywhere, so you want to watch your corners. Looking forward to playing more of that, but I'm a sucker for my open world co-op games. Played Watch Dogs Legion. I got to play as the old lady. I can't remember her name. Helen, I think. And it's fantastic because she's still able to do everything everyone else is able to do. She's just a lot slower. So she can still parkour, but it takes her longer to get up. Now, it's endearing and it's hilarious. I don't see myself using her too much. I mean, she's pure meme status at this stage because it's kind of piss you off if you get spotted climbing over a wall because it took you an extra 5 seconds to do it because you're old. But I guess that introduces its own challenge. I think Watch Dogs Legion has the potential to be the best version of the Watch Dogs formula, and that the idea that you can kind of recruit anyone, and obviously they've got archetypes and there will be a set amount of characters and whatnot, but I feel like this is the one where they're going to nail it, instead of like Watch Dogs 1 was deeply flawed but had potential. 2 kind of delivered more on the potential, and then Legion looks like it's like, okay, they've really got it, they've got what this should be. So keen to play more, especially if the co-op is great, because I had a lot of fun with the second one. Luke and I trolled some people with invasions. They kept coming back to try to kill us, and we kept smashing them. I love that shit. So definitely keen, especially if it has that. I had a quick look at Logitech G903, which I mentioned earlier. It's already been out. It was sort of, again, Logitech just wanted to touch base. They had a presence there. They wanted to not so much talk about what's coming up, but just go, hey, do you know about this and that? And I'm keen to upgrade to a G903, but I really can't justify it at this stage, despite better battery life and things like that. Like my G900 I've had it for years. It's served me well. It honestly feels like a wired mouse when it's in wireless, which means you're not getting your fucking cable snagged. And for anyone who's played games with me would know often I call out, Pat, fucking Pat, my loving cat that will, ruin everything, jump, flop on keyboards, on mice, and he used to pull on mice cables in the past. So that one, I don't have to worry about anymore, so I don't miss shots because of bloody Pat. Cyberpunk 2077 was up next, hands off. It was an hour-long presentation. Looks amazing. Like, you know that they're onto something great when they have the confidence to do a really slow burn, lead in, a deeper dive on the world and what's going on. You can just see the richness and every fucking billboard and the history and the different languages and the way that like the UI is part of the technology. So therefore it's like of the game. Therefore it's part of the narrative. And you've got bloody John Wick, Keanu Reeves popping up. We got to see a particular incursion played out a couple of different ways with a couple of differently spec'd characters, and you can hack into weights to kill people, or hack into a boxing bot to pummel some dude's head off while you're trying to stealth your way in but still trying to get that body count up, make it look like an accident, Hitman styles. And then, what strength allows you to do in terms of incursions options versus the hacking and stuff. It just looks like one of those games. It's like, just play your way. Like, they know they're onto something good. It's very much a case of shut up and take my money. Cannot wait to play it. But very, very keen to even see more. And I hope that they release the demo like they did with the last year's one, but it was after Gamescom, so I dare say they'll do the same thing again, where they'll show the demo again at Gamescom for any of the press and influencers and salespeople that missed it, and then they will release it to the public. And you should just get some popcorn and enjoy the shit out of that 50-minute presentation. It's great. I played PES 2020. I liked it more than FIFA 20, but that's probably because I was playing against AI. It felt good. Like, it had some goofy bugs that were happening, but I felt like I was in control, and the game was setting up plays and doing things that I wanted it to do. And I've never really bought too much into the FIFA versus PES debate because I'm not an expert on either. But yeah, good times. I want to play more. Probably cooperatively because I suck competitively. I then had a look at Commandos 2 HD. It was supposed to be hands-on, but I think the code wasn't working properly, so it was just to sit down and chat with one of the devs, and he had a closer look at the what they've changed and talking through the the updates and things like that. And I've been a massive Commandos fan since day dot. This is real-time tactics. Oh my god, real-time tactics. There we go. Third time's a charm genre, and it's great. I've loved it since I played the first Commandos. They're not doing the original Commandos yet because Commandos 2 rightly was the peak of the series. It took a lot of what was great about the original Commandos and it iterated on it and it added all this extra stuff but it was like the sequel where you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. I was looking forward to it for years. In high school, I got it and I made it up to the last mission. I didn't finish it. I didn't finish the last mission because it was too hard. It was one of those things where I just stopped playing like an idiot. I've since bought it on probably on GOG and Steam just because why not? Why wouldn't you? And I've reinstalled it, but it's in ugly letterbox mode and I'm a bit too much of a snob to play it. So definitely keen for it to come out with an updated HD version and widescreen and things like that. What I find interesting is that it's going to consoles as well as mobile. And when I usually hear mobile, I usually balk. But I'm like, you know what? I think this genre of game would work really well, particularly on a tablet. So I'm very keen to see how it plays. And I'm just loving, on a personal note, the resurgence of the real-time tactics genre. I mean, we've got Desperados 3 coming out, which I also got to play. Well, might as well cover that one now. I played that for about 20-30 minutes on the show floor. It was a tutorial level, and then the first stage. And you know what? It's super satisfying. They've nailed it. Mimi, I think, is the name of the developer. Also the same devs that made Shadow Tactics, which was the resurgence of the real-time tactics games, very much influenced by Commandos. It's great to see that their talent has been noticed and they're making Desperados 3. I'm actually slowly playing through Shadow Tactics at the moment, doing a level at a time, and when I finish a level I go onto YouTube and watch someone do a speedrun on the highest difficulty and just marvel at the freakish ways that they do things and how much better they are at it than I am. It's so good to see this genre come back, and I was always sad that it kind of disappeared after Desperados 2, really, and there was the gap between that and then Shadow Tactics. So, and I think putting it on as many platforms as possible, and platforms that make sense, because the input, why it will work on a tablet is it doesn't require APM. It's not big on actions per minute, and you can it's more about methodical planning and execution with a couple of quick clicks rather than needing to line up shitloads of units that you do in RTS. So it's good. It's good to see, and I think if they get it right on tablet, that it'll be a whole new market, and it'll just help to reinforce that this genre, this dormant genre, is one that should be coming back. It should be active in it, and hopefully it's going to be amazing. I also got to play Praetorians HD, which is made by the same studio as Commandos Pyro, I want to say. And you know what? It's still as fucking hard as it used to be. I never finished it because it kicked my ass. I will give it another crack, because I like that sort of... I mean, this is more closer to RTS and real-time tactics, but it's still got that punishing aspect where you feel that every unit matters and you can't just blob, tank rush or whatever that you used to do in Command and Conquers. You've really got to worry about your formations and where your troops can and can't go, and the scissor paper rock of who beats who, and the importance of scouting, because you'll just start getting raining arrows will come out of the fog of war and just decimate your troops. Definitely keen to revisit and see if I've gotten any better at it. I played a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not really going to talk about that too much, other than to say, like, it's, it's a card game. One of those digital card games. It's an actual card game as well. Obviously very popular in Japan, and now coming in some massive digital package for a Western audience. I think it's got, like, I don't know how many games in there. Like, it seemed like a lot, 5 or 6. Silly amount. I played through basically a tutorial stage, an opening level, which I was being coached through, and I'm like, yep, if you're into card games, this one sounds like it's interesting. It's got a bit more depth, or complexity, perhaps is the better word, than other card games that are on the market at the moment. I got to see a behind closed doors presentation of Avengers being played live. I thought it was just going to be a video. They do that sometimes, but no, this was apparently being played, and it looked a lot better than what they showed off at the Square Enix conference. I felt that was quite clipped and didn't really kind of faithfully translate the intention of what you would expect from the developers who are working on it, who are the, like, Tomb Raider devs. But you know what? It looks good. Like, it looks like a lot of fun. Obviously, it felt a bit funnily in parts because they're going for that cinematic thing, so very kind of scripted, but the pledge is that it will, open up a bit more. It's only launching with the handful of Avengers that you got to see, but they're going to release new areas and Avengers for free, and they're going to make their money out of cosmetics. Super smart way to do it. People are going to want to buy their favorite, skins, and as long as they're reasonably priced, I think it's a really viable way to support any product, let alone something of this magnitude, which I feel is going to be popular with people of all ages. And you can play it solo or you can play it co-op. Or certain bits in co-op. So I'm excited. I'm a sucker for co-op to play more. We got to play something really new, John Wick Hex. And for anyone who saw the trailer for John Wick Hex, you weren't alone in thinking that it looks like this just super turn-based game. And while it kind of is, I guess, it's closer to Superhot in that when you move, time moves. So what you're dealing with is a time economy that is at the top of the screen at all times. And if you try to walk across a room, your walk across the room will be interrupted at any point at which an enemy appears or has you in the line of sight. And then you'll see like a time scale of their actions. So whether John has seen them first, who plays John Wick, or they have seen you, it will show you what they're about to do, whether they're about to shoot, whether they're about to melee strike you, if they're a bruiser or something like that. So you really the way that you move around levels is like moving from cover to cover is important, but you also have the opportunity to roll with the punches. Like you can do a takedown on someone and then pick where you end up after the takedown, so you end up behind them. So the dude, which might be in cover, so the dude's coming in with a gun, takes a shot and misses, or you can do a roll away, or you can duck when someone's shooting at you, looking at you through a window, which, to be fair, like the height differences and the window stuff, I didn't feel was visually translated super well, at least not for me on first glance. But it was a lot of fun. Like, you can't, if you reload your magazine after 2 shots, you lose that magazine. Then you're relying on, you've only got a couple of magazines to finish an entire section, which is probably like, 4 or 5 different levels before you get to a boss fight. But you can pick up the guns of the dead enemies or the ones you've disarmed, or you can throw your gun or their gun at them to distract them as a percentage, likelihood based on how close you are. John, even at 80%, seems to be 100% accurate, which I'm not complaining with. There's a procedural element to it based on certain stages, apparently. Like there was one restaurant that I entered that the guy who was talking me through it said that some dude had 2 dudes with guns straight away, someone else had nobody in there, so it's like breeds this idea of replayability. And what was really cool, although not available in the demo, was that what I played was that when you get to the end, it apparently will show you like a cinematic version of what you just played in real time. So all of the stuff that you were kind of stop-start doing will be shown as if it's like this stylized John Wick movie that you were in control of, which I think is a nice touch. And I found that the more I got into it, the more I understood it, the less I was treating it like a turn-based thing, and the more that I would just very quickly move between the things. So it felt like way more fluid. And I think that's the intention of when you learn it and you become more confident, that it will become that. I mean, you take damage and you can heal yourself. You've got to refocus up, but that takes time. Reloading takes time. Like, everything takes time. So it's tense. I really enjoyed it. And I didn't think that I would so much based on the trailer, because I thought it was turn-based. I'm like, John Wick is turn-based. But then when you play it, you start to realize that, well, they couldn't really do it as a third-person action game, because how do you translate that idea of the multi-kills and, the fluid movement between a takedown and stuff? So I think this is a really good way to do it, and I'm keen to play more. I had a look at Dying Light 2. Oh, man, I'm so glad I got to see that. I was a big fan of the original Dying Light. I know that not everyone who's on this podcast was, but it definitely was a flawed game. The story was shit, and it descended into a lot of fetch quests. But like most co-op things, I had a lot of fun with the co-op. But the way that it handled movement, it was way better. Like, it felt way more fluid, and it was a better parkour game than Mirror's Edge, even though that was only part of it. Like, the ability to sprint and look over your shoulder, I thought was a great touch. The grappling hook, once you got it, although it came a bit too late in the game, was fantastic. So going into Dying Light 2 and being told that they've got, not just more gameplay mechanics and more ways to move through the world, but they've got a bigger focus on storytelling and the way that this demo played out, I don't really want to ruin it, but there were points at which they said if you made particular decisions earlier, it would play out differently. And right at the end, because they'd followed a particular path, they unlocked an entirely new gameplay area. And they said if you hadn't done that, like if you'd chosen to do things differently, you would never unlock that. Now, it has co-op, but it's that co-op where you're like the guest in someone else's world. And usually I hate that, because you're not carrying story progress back over, and it feels a little bit like a waste of time. But what I find interesting about this is it's sort of like those games like The Simpsons or whatever, like those town building games where you can invite someone in to have a look at your town, and you're like, oh, that's pretty sick. So like, imagine that idea, except you're actually helping your buddy or buddies destroy the world. I mean, the host, not destroy the world, but fight the zombies, and you're playing a co-op action experience. But you're not taking any story progression back. You will take your weapons back. I think you may take XP. I'm not 100% on that, don't quote me. But what's cool, like what I like about it, is it becomes a gameplay version of that water cooler discussion, where you say, hey, I made this decision and this is how it played out. And you're like, holy shit, I did this, and this completely different thing happened. Now, if they can deliver on that, and I can't remember the name of the lead writer they've got, but he's got a very impressive portfolio. It seems like they're on track to do that, and they're taking their time with this sequel, which they probably could have just rushed out. When Dying Light was super popular with a couple of revised things, but they've added in so much more, and I was just like glued to the screen for the 40-minute presentation. It looks gorgeous. Cannot wait to play more of that. I like my zombie games, I love my co-op games, and I like Dying Light. I like good stories, and I like the idea of decisions with meaning and consequences and permanence. So, yeah, definitely keen to play more of that. Or play it, even. Next up, I played Fall Guys, Devolver Digital game. It's basically like, it's like kind of like a battle royale in a way. It's like 100 players, or it's intended to have 100 players. We played versus AI, which they're not 100% on whether you will be able to play with fewer people against AI, but I hope that they add it, because the idea of being able to play like a little party situation with your buddies, with 2, 3, 4 of you, and you can see the names of the human characters versus the AI that didn't have any names above them, so you're naturally going to prioritize them. But it's like Takeshi's Castle, like a round robin of events, I believe, a certain amount that are picked, that culminates with a race to the crown, but people get eliminated in every round. So one of the things was you either spawned with a tail, or you didn't have a tail, and you had to grab a tail off another player and finish the round with a tail. So that was a lot of fun, just playing hide and seek, or for me, I was just standing there and waiting for them to come and then trying to run away. I lost my tail at one point, I got it back again. Another one was like a race where you had to jump through the doors. There'd be like 4 doors that you could go through, but one of them might be solid, 2 of them might be solid, 3 of them were solid towards the end. So I found that it was better to not be the person in first until right at the end, where you want to jump through You want to see the person in the corner of your eye jump into the one that's solid, and then you want to jump through the one next to it, and for it to be perfect. I won that round. I survived the round with the tail, and then the final thing was a run up a big obstacle course with giant balls dropping down on you and getting knocked over, and I did not win. It was the winner takes all scenario for that last bit, unfortunately for me. After that, I had to run back to the convention center through security again, and I played No Straight Roads, which I thought was like a rhythm game meets action, but it's sort of more like an action platformer that happens to have music in it, and all of the worlds are musically themed, the bosses are musically themed. The combat is musically themed because he plays a guitarist or a drummer and switch between the characters. It's a really cool idea, and one that, you know, I'm definitely keen to see more of, and the music was really catchy, and you got rewarded for perfectly timed things, so I'm hoping that that one's a lot of fun to play. It's sort of like Brutal Legend, but, you know, less open and more about the music and the combat and the gameplay loop. Okay, on the home stretch now. I had an hour of hands-on time with Nintendo games, which I spread between the 6 games on offer, so about 10 minutes per game. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Not a big Pokemon player. It seems like one of those things that I missed back in the day, but Pokemon Sword and Shield looks to be adding a whole lot more new stuff. But I didn't get to play a lot of the overworld, or the open world rather, or the new Mega Pokemon abilities. I just went through a basic, like, turn the valves to stop the water puzzle, and then had a fight in a gym. It was okay. Luigi's Mansion 3, I haven't played any of the earlier games, but it was a lot of fun. Like, it was actually, you know, basically like a Ghostbusters game, but the way of, you know, using your flashlight to to stun the ghost, and then you've got to grab it by its tail, and you've got to hurl it around. You can bash it into other ghosts to do damage to them, and so it's a little bit like tactical, but even though it kind of feels like a Ghostbusters game, it's got that Nintendo charm, the Mario charm, so you're finding your secrets and things like that. And, you know, it's one that I really want to play. I don't think I'll go back and play the earlier ones, but I'm definitely keen to check out Luigi's Mansion 3. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This was one of my earliest best memories of gaming on my Game Boy. I think it was one of the first games that I 100%ed. A shitload of fun on Game Boy, and it's amazing how much I still remembered in this updated version. It obviously is a lot prettier, but it's definitely one that, even though there's too many games to play these days, that I will be taking for a spin once it launches later this year. It's not just, I mean, the core gameplay they've came for the most part. I didn't get to play any of the new gameplay sections. There was some puzzles that stumped me. I clearly didn't remember the solutions for those, but everything else just felt right. And for it to look beautiful is one of those awesome instances where you remember a game looking a particular way and it looks better than what you remember, which is great. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order is a lot of fun. The first 2 games I kind of had a love-hate relationship with. I enjoyed the shit out of the first one. I really didn't get into the second one, and I tried to play it recently. That's when Activision was charging like, what, $90 for the 2 of them or something, and I went back to try to play with a buddy, and I just wasn't getting into it, and I wasn't getting into the first one. I'm like, what's happened? What changed with Ultimate Alliance 3, even though it's only on Switch, which I'm sure pissed some people off. I think it's a fantastic platform for it. You can apparently do 4-player local co-op or online. And when you're playing alone, or when you're playing online multiplayer, or at least your own system per player multiplayer, you have control of the camera, which was one of my problems with the earlier games. It's got that comic book stylized combat feel. It's got a massive roster, and it's that co-op brawler game I'm fucking keen to play more of. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. Yes, that is the title. Not really for me. Super simplified stuff. You know, press 1 or 2 buttons to compete in events. Skateboarding, surfboarding, archery. They were all okay, but, you know, it was like a massive collection of mini games that didn't particularly feel like they had too much depth. They might have depth in the final version, but certainly wasn't there in what what I played. Not really for me. New Super Lucky's Tale was the last one that I played, and it is, as you would expect, Super Lucky's Tale. What's new about it is a resolution drop. Whoops. I mean, that's the Switch, right? So comparing the Xbox One X version to the Switch probably isn't very fair. But you had full camera control, which I'm not sure whether that was patched into the original. It's got new story, new controls feel tighter, and for anyone who was into that game originally, I think this is a better version of it, despite the resolution drop. So if you missed it or you're keen to revisit, this probably is a great version. I hope that they bring the new version to Xbox One X, which they might after a certain period of waiting. Checked out a behind-the-scenes a presentation of Stronghold Warlords and chatted to a couple of the devs. Game looks cool. I haven't played a Stronghold game since Stronghold Crusader, I want to say. Always liked them. I don't think I was particularly good at them in that I didn't really get too far into the campaigns, but this one is set in China, I want to say, which brings in a whole, not just new aesthetic, but new resource management, new units, and new gameplay mechanics, and it definitely looks like one to return to if you're like me and you haven't really played one since the older versions. I think the more recent ones have been divisive with if you're judging by Steam reviews, but for a strategy series that I kind of stopped playing, I'm keen to revisit on this entry. Darksiders Genesis I got to play on the showroom floor just before Desperados 3, which I've already talked about, so I won't go back into that. But Darksiders Genesis is that, isometric Diablo view, run around, brawl, get loot, and I'm like, yeah, this makes a whole lot of sense. For a Darksiders game, it feels like a stopgap, like they're going to make Darksiders 4 at some stage, but this is the first proper introduction to a playable Strife, I want to say, the horseman with the pistols. I believe you can play as all the other ones. I got to play as War and Strife, and Death wasn't there, and I cannot remember the name of the other one, unless she is Strife. My bad. Anyways, it was cool. I didn't need to play a whole lot of it to know that it's exactly the kind of thing, like that Darksiders style puzzling and combat and traversal even. Yeah, I'm a Darksiders fan. Like I said earlier, I haven't played 3 yet. This one feels like a step in the right direction for a new audience, and if you can play 4-player local co-op, color me very excited. I saw a secret title that I can't talk about. I won't even tell you what type of title it is. Like NVIDIA, I'm on an embargo that is a TBD. I don't know when I can talk about it, and when I can, I'll tell you about it. I won't even tell you who's making it. So hopefully I'll be able to, update you on that later in the year. The final game I checked out, excuse me, which, full disclosure, was after E3, but I was supposed to check out at E3. Oh, there was another one, Joby. I lied. Was Carry On, but I wasn't able to make the timing work, so I was glad that I got to take it for a spin when I got back. The best way to describe it is you get to play as the Thing creature, and you bust through different levels and smack people around, do a little bit of environmental puzzling, and you know what? It was a lot of fun. Looking forward to playing more. Devolver seems to release some pretty damn awesome titles. I had a lot of fun with my friend Pedro while I was away. I got to play it on Switch, a little bit more on PC when I got back, but I really enjoyed it. Like, not a 10 out of 10 experience by any stretch of the imagination, nor do I think it's trying to be, but a lot of fun, and the skill shots and the way that those gameplay mechanics build up throughout what I played over the first few hours, a couple of hours I should say, I enjoyed. I'm going to stop it there because my voice is giving up. I've already done a couple of cheeky coughs, sorry. I've also paused to do coughing fits, and my voice is less powerful than it was at the beginning. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Give a little plug to my other podcast. Here's my movie podcast I do with my partner Katie, where we dissect great movies or not so great movies, and we give our interpretation of what we would do if we were in charge of making it. We've been a bit lax because of me being away and being sick, but we're back into it now. We should be pumping out weekly episodes, so go to here'smymovie.com or just Google us, Here's My Movie Podcast, to find out a whole lot more. Follow us on Facebook if you want, hit us up on Twitter. And apart from that, Thank you very much. I hope that this was beneficial for you. And if you want to know any questions, or if you have any questions, you want to know more about any of the games I've mentioned or anything else about E3, apart from how sore my feet were at the end of every bloody day. Very painful. It was very easy to get in my 10,000 steps. Ping me on Discord, in the questions thing on the Gap Discord, and I will answer whatever your questions are. Bye-bye! And just when you thought I was done, there's one I forgot. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2? I think that's where it is. I think it's where the 2 goes. Maybe it's Vampire the Masquerade 2 Bloodlines. Anyways, I probably should have looked that up before I started ranting again. Game is kick-ass. I got a behind closed doors session right at the end of one of the days, which is why it wasn't in my initial list. I didn't have it on a list because I was able to sub in super late to the last session. They played it live while one of the game devs talked us through what was going on, and the game looks sick. There is a lot of awesome action RPG games coming up, or I guess RPGs if you don't have to play them super action-like, but this one you definitely had the option of going loud with weapons and whatnot, or vampire abilities, scaling up walls. It looks like a lot of fun, and the idea of the masquerade being that you're trying to stay as hidden as possible, so at night you do whatever you want, in terms of your vampire powers, but you really don't want the squishy human blood bags to see you flexing your vampire skills, I guess, unless you're going to eat them. And within munching on particular humans, there's this interesting color-coded system where you go into vampire view and you can see their arteries and whatnot, and there's I think that they said flavors. There's different flavors that unlock different abilities, and then you can pick different core abilities and feed into different powers. It looks really cool. I honestly never played the first one. Or no, I did, but it was one of those buggy messes that I quickly abandoned. Story of my life, apparently, on this podcast and with everything else. But really looking forward to that. I think the biggest challenge is going to be finding the time to do all these games justice. I really hope that they're adequately spread out so that there's at least a few weeks between the bigger ones, so that you can get some hours sunk into and try and finish the best that you can in these games that tend to go on for a while. But if you're looking forward to this game, you absolutely should be. And that's it. That's honestly it. That's every game. By my count, it was 57 different games, hardware appointments and things like that. So not too bad. If there's anything I missed, I probably will add it on the back of this, but I'm pretty sure that's everything. Same again, if you want to know more about this game or any of the others, just hit me up. All right, bye.